580 Sports Talk coming to you on a Tuesday. That is right. Thank you so much for stopping by. It is a Tuesday, and where were you the day that the Royals were back? Okay, maybe not totally back. At least this time the Royals didn't release a statement saying, we got a major announcement. We got a major announcement coming up, and then that major announcement was Jason Vargas. Now, granted, Jason Vargas was pretty good that year.
Hey, that's all-star Jason Vargas.
That was not that
Eventual
year.
all-star.
Eventual all-star Jason Vargas.
Vargy pitched a heck of a game.
Vargy did pitch a heck of a game, according to Mike Moustakas, and he also, I remember he was the starting pitcher in the ALDS and just absolutely locked up Mike Trout. But we got some Royals news as they actually opened up the bank a little bit. We'll talk a little Royals baseball today. We got plenty of Chiefs reaction, including some news that occurred today involving the Kansas City Chiefs opponents. We will talk about the football last night because, holy cow, that was interesting. Woke up this morning and said, wait a minute, what? So lots to get to here on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Let us know your thoughts. You are always welcome. Hit us up on our text line, 785-272-9429. Real simple, real easy. You go to our YouTube page. Go to youtube.com. Type in 580 Sports Talk. You click on the image, and then you say subscribe, and then you like it. It's really simple. And you can interact with us on our YouTube stream every single day.
We're up to over 400 subscribers.
Yeah.
402.
402. 402 subscribers.
That's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
It is a big deal.
A big enough deal.
A big enough deal.
That we've got something cooking back there.
I tried to play Pitbull, and it's just not.
We're all having a good time. Yeah.
I don't know, guys.
It's
I got nothing there.
So we got lots to get to. We are going to talk plenty of Chiefs. We will talk some
Man,
Royals.
all this great big build up and absolutely nothing. Ah!
That's all right. It's okay. The most delayed song ever.
We get a little bit of Pitbull today.
So
Just a sprinkle.
No explanation for that. Let's keep it moving.
Let us know. Hit us up. So we'll talk Royals. We'll talk some Chiefs. We'll talk 2024 because I got something that I want to discuss with you about what the Chiefs should do in 2024. So that'll be coming up. Michael Swain will talk a little KU athletics. We'll get to some college football, some topics coming up here. One, the transfer portal. I'm telling you, it's the place to be. It is the place to be. And I think there's one major reason why. We'll get to that coming up. But Seth Keister, good friend of the show, he tweeted out, I still think the Chiefs are the best team in the AFC, and I still think that they're going to end up being the 1 seed. Well, with the news today that Justin Herbert is now done for the year, the Kansas City Chiefs are going to play Bailey Zappi on Sunday.
The Zap Man.
Which will be on the big 94.5 country because that game got flexed. And what's funny is I did reach out to K-State. I was like, hey, K-State, you had that game on Sunday because the Chiefs were playing on Monday. They were like, correct. Now they're not. Are you moving it back? They go, we can't. It's already set in stone and everybody's got it, that date locked in. And I go, are you guys not happy about that? They go, no comment. So the answer to that is yes, we are not happy about that. And so that game will be on the big 94.5 country at 11 o'clock. But you take on Bailey Zappi. Then you take on Aiden O'Connell. Then you take on maybe the good quarterback Jake Browning. And then you take on Easton Stick. That's right. That's a real person. Easton Stick is the backup quarterback to Justin Herbert, who, by the way, two-time national champ.
I had an Easton Stick when I played Little League when I was 11, 12 years old.
Yo, the Easton was the bat for my generation.
I had an Easton. Yeah.
I had the the blue and the gold Easton.
We had the Easton like reflex where it was the black and the red Easton was big. And then TPX.
The Louisville Slugger. Those were Louisville Sluggers.
Yeah.
That was their brand.
The TPX, the Easton. But Easton Stick of NDSU is going to be in the way for the Kansas City Chiefs. That is that's your opponents if you are the Kansas City Chiefs. Honestly, and I know Matt Verderame said if you play a mistake-free game, no turnovers, no big plays, nothing dumb, then you're going to be in the game with the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know if you can do that even with these teams, with these quarterbacks. Like the Kansas City Chiefs have, to me, the easiest route the rest of the way. That should be 4 wins. They should go at minimum 12-5. They should not lose another game. I don't care how the Chiefs' offense is bad, the Chiefs' offense is struggling. I do not care. If they lose another game, that is, to me, that's the one time where I will say now, you guys know my position on, the regular season is a means to an end and everything, but they need to go 4-0 the rest of the way. They need to go 12-5. No questions asked. They have to go 12-5. If they don't, then to me, this is unacceptable. The Chiefs cannot go 11-6 in the NFL this year. That is unacceptable for me. But when you look at it, if those are the 4 quarterbacks that you have to go against, okay? I want you guys to take a look at, and the Dolphins lost last night. We'll get to that coming up here in just a little bit. So the Dolphins now just have a 1-game lead on the Kansas City Chiefs. If the Chiefs win out and the Dolphins just lose one more game, Chiefs have the tiebreaker. Works out great, right? Chiefs have 2 games behind the Ravens. Now, the good news is that the Ravens just need to lose 2 games and the Chiefs lose 2 games, and the Chiefs will overtake the Ravens. And why do you say that? Jake, they didn't play each other in the regular season. No, they didn't. But the Chiefs have a better conference record because they're going to win out, right? They're going to win out.
Yeah.
I think there's a non-zero chance that the Baltimore Ravens lose 2 games the rest of the way. I think the Ravens can lose to the Jaguars. I think the Ravens can lose to the 49ers. I think the Ravens can lose to the Dolphins. And I think the Ravens, depending upon the situation, can lose to the Steelers. It is not out of the question for the 1 seed, as long as the Chiefs win out, that the Ravens are going to lose one of those games. They're not going 4-0. They're not going to.
No, I wouldn't think so.
So that is why, Chiefs fans, these next 4 games still should give you some hope, despite the fact that your team has no idea how to cross a T and dot an I at this point in time. And when you look at the Dolphins, right, because the Dolphins are ahead of the Chiefs. Here's the Dolphins' schedule the rest of the way. They play the Jets. They play the Cowboys. They play the Ravens. And they play the Bills. And the Bills will be playing for a playoff spot that Sunday. Because the Bills play the Cowboys. Low-key, the Cowboys, they got a tough schedule the rest of the way. I ain't going to lie to you.
That's why that Eagles game was so big.
Yeah, that's kind of a tough situation.
By strength of schedule, I believe the Dolphins run in their final 4 games. It's the toughest of any team in the NFL.
So you go Jets, Cowboys, Ravens, Bills. I think the Dolphins might not even win their division. I think the Bills have a chance, the Buffalo Bills, to sneak in and win the division. Now, they've got the Cowboys. The Chargers, complete non-factor with, Easton Stick there at quarterback. And that team is just completely done. They might as well fire Staley now, unless there's something like in his contract where it's like, hey, if you make it 2 full years, or no, 3, right? This would be 3. 3 full years, then our buyout is less. I don't know. Then they got the Patriots, and then you got the Dolphins. Like that game between the Dolphins and Bills might determine who's going to be the AFC East champion.
Yeah. The division is back in play after last night.
So now the Bills have to take care of business against the Cowboys. That's a big one there. If you go 7-7, then you do have to win out the rest of the way because you got to get to 10. But Chiefs fans, because of how the schedule has worked out, they're still I wouldn't even say, I think it's probably 25% chance, maybe even more, that the Ravens lose 2 games. So my question I've got for you, do you have more confidence in the Ravens losing 2 games or the Chiefs winning their next 4?
Probably the Chiefs winning the next 4. I mean,
you think that's got a better chance of happening than the Ravens losing 2 of 4 against the teams that I had mentioned? Because the teams I mentioned are they're big. That's not an easy schedule. I mean, especially if, and we'll talk about Tyreek Hill in a little bit, but the Jaguars, depending upon how healthy, Jacksonville can sneak up on anybody, I think. But the 49ers, I got to feel like that's going to be a loss for Baltimore. It's at the 49ers. Then you've got the Dolphins. They could lose to the Dolphins. Boom, right there, 2 losses. So as much of the panic button and all of the amount of my friends who are not located in this state, located around the various parts of the United States, they're having a good time with Patrick Mahomes. They're having a good time with the Chiefs struggling and Mahomes and Reed being crybabies and all of that kind of stuff. Nothing would be, to me, more hilarious than the year that the Chiefs have flat out got problems and they still end up the 1 seed.
Yeah, I think the original point that Seth made, I think it's very possible the Chiefs do end up with the number 1 seed. I would refute the other part of it. I think the Chiefs are too mistake prone to consider them the best team in the AFC, at least right now. Maybe things change within the next 4 weeks and they blow out their very easy remaining schedule. They win by 21 every week. And you say, okay, well, they got hot and figured it out at the right time. The Ravens are, this isn't to say the Ravens are like miles better than the Chiefs. They're not. And I don't think the Dolphins are either. I just don't think I'm not really comfortable naming anyone right now as the best team in the AFC. Because it's
everybody's got flaws, right?
Yeah, it's kind of weird because, you know, going into the year, oh my God, the AFC is crazy. And then a couple weeks ago, we talked about, well, the top of the AFC is really good. There's just not a whole lot of depth. But I mean, now the Chiefs have what looks like it might be a fatal flaw in a couple of games this year. It has been a fatal flaw. You either talk about the fact that they're throwing to bums or the fact that they turn the ball over too much.
Or the bums can't. Well, I guess if they can't catch, they're still bums and they're throwing to bums. So that encompasses just bums.
Right.
You're right. Yeah.
Like the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia episode, bums making a mess of our city or all over the city. The Ravens have been playing really well. Lamar has looked as good as he's looked since 2019. He's been healthy.
Season.
He's been really good. They haven't won a meaningful game since they won the Super Bowl. Like, that's the last, like, meaningful, big picture game the Ravens won. Was the Super Bowl.
That was Joe Flacco was elite. And is Joe Flacco elite again?
That was Super Bowl 47. We're going into Super Bowl 58 this year.
Been a while.
It's been a while. And I like John Harbaugh, and I like that Ravens team, and I like Lamar, but that they are very similar to me to the last 2 years of the Buffalo Bills.
It's been a while.
Prove it. Prove that you're going to be that team.
What percentage would you put on the Ravens earning the number 1 seed right now? What percentage would you put?
I think it's 50-50. I really do. I think it's 50-50 because...
And no cheating and looking at the Vegas odds, because that's what I'm trying to drive at here.
Oh, Vegas thinks that they're going to be the 1 seed.
Yeah, I would give it Ravens
like
60-40.
No,
I think I saw this on Twitter. Is it the Ravens plus 275?
No, it is the Ravens minus 115. And
Holy smokes.
So the implied odds of that is 53%. Like
right.
That's what you're getting at here is a roughly 50
I didn't think it'd be that high. I thought I was a little high.
53% chance. The Chiefs are plus 350, which is 22% chance, which being 2 games back with 4 to play and still having those kinds of odds, that's not so bad, because really it's a 1.5 game deficit because you've got the potential for the tiebreaker. It's not just that the Chiefs can win out. It's that if they do win out in a certain like form or fashion, if they go and they stomp out these next 4 teams, which they could absolutely do, like their defense is good enough to throttle these 4 offenses that they are going to see the next 4 weeks. And presuming that the offense doesn't turn the ball over 3-4 times in a game, they should have ample opportunity to go drive the ball down and score, and they should win these games. And if they win all 4 of them comfortably, I don't think it matters if they get the number 1 seed or not. They're going to be the AFC favorites going into the postseason. And we have seen the Chiefs host, we call the Arrowhead Invitational, twice in the last 5 years as the number 2 seed. They have gotten to play at home in the playoffs. This stuff happens when you get to this time of year.
To me, if there were any different quarterbacks, then I would say that I don't know if the Chiefs will win the rest. Because if they were playing Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow and a healthy, normal Raiders quarterback and a healthy...
When was the last time they had a healthy, normal quarterback?
Derek Carr?
2016 Derek Carr.
Yeah. Then I would say no, but that's why they shouldn't lose a game. The Bengals game is interesting because the Bengals do have playmakers. But for the first time, I feel comfortable with the Chiefs matching up for those playmakers. Last year, with everybody being so young, you're like, I don't know. But if you remember, in the playoff game, man, McDuffie looked really, really good. And they didn't have L'Jarius Sneed in that game because he got knocked out early.
Really, both games, meetings last year against Cincinnati, it wasn't as though those wide receivers just ran circles around the Chiefs secondary, and it's a better group this year.
It's the Bengals because of just the skill talent, and then everybody else. Like, you should take care of business. That's why I think that the Kansas City Chiefs still have a very good chance at ending up the 1 seed, and you hope that and this is all, and I said this to one of my friends who said, gosh, the Chiefs, they're just not, they don't have it this year. And I said, no, the Chiefs don't lose. They don't get beat. Like there hasn't been a team right now that just flat out came and smacked them. Okay. No, they beat themselves. The only way you beat the Chiefs is, I brought this up, I want to say at the beginning of the year, but the movie The Internship with Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson, where the one guy's like, I don't need to do anything. I just sit back. You'll screw it up. You always do. And in the movie, which is a funny movie, by the way, Vince Vaughn does. Like, he messes up royally. And he's like, see, I didn't need to do anything. You did it all yourself. If you are the Patriots, the Raiders, the Bengals, just stay the course, because the Chiefs are just going to screw it up themselves. They will do something so dumb and so shooting yourselves in they're going to go full Plaxico. They're just going to shoot themselves. And you're going to say, thank you for that. And then you'll get a bad pass from Mahomes. You get a fumble from somebody. You'll get a holding call that didn't need it. Or, you know what I mean? Like, and that's just, they're not going to, you don't beat the Chiefs. They'll just take care of it themselves. And I would say that if it was anybody other than those quarterbacks, I would say that the Chiefs would lose one of those games. They would, because they've done it all year long. But because those quarterbacks are those quarterbacks, you feel a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, it's those quarterbacks, and it's also those coaches. I mean, it's the whole thing. Like, the Patriots are just, they're just awful.
That's a death march towards the inevitable end of the season.
You guys with me that Bill might not be back next year, or you still think he's there?
I still think he's there. I still think he's there. I'm
not. I'm on the. They decide to make a move, they make a move.
I think he gets to do it as long as he wants to do it.
Right.
Christmas Day, they play the Raiders. I can't believe, personally, I cannot believe this. Antonio Pierce might not be cut out for this. I'm shocked, just as shocked as you are. The guy who was at the very middle of Herm Edwards breaking every single NCAA violation rule at Arizona State might not be cut out.
You mean the guy who most people want to score a touchdown?
The guy who is like,
different.
when I coached Pee Wee, I wanted to win by 100. I wanted to shove those kids' face in the dirt. Well, cool. You're very normal and well-adjusted. That's a very normal thing to do. The Bengals, I think the Browning's going to turn into a pumpkin at some point.
Okay.
And the Chargers, will they play? Like, if you're in Khalil Mack, week 18, like,
No,
am I going to play for this bozo?
No, they're incentive day. That's incentive day.
Yeah, I
What
suppose.
do I need to get? What do I need to get? By the way, when I was playing Pee Wee football, and there was a scoreboard, the score couldn't have more than 18 points difference on the score. So if
Really?
Herm Ed were like, yeah, if the score was 21-0, it said 18-0.
But then if the other team scored to make it 18-7,
then they would adjust it.
Really?
Yeah. Because they didn't want the other team to look up there and be like, oh my gosh, we're getting destroyed.
So then they'd be like, oh, here's a magical 7 points. Now it's 25-7.
Yep.
That's
Because I remember that when I was a wee lad playing tackle football, we were crushing the Eagles. They were undefeated at the time. And man, we gave them the business. We did. And I remember we went up 21-0 and the score didn't change. And I said to my coach, I said, Coach Ken, it's 21. And he said, no, I know, but they just leave it at 18. And I said, why? I remember that.
People say kids are going soft today. I had no idea. That's how they were doing it in the 90s, too.
oh,
Fifth grade.
shoot.
Fifth grade, baby.
Chargers just made a quarterback move, try to shore up their quarterback room with Justin Herbert on the shelf. Practice squad quarterback Max Duggan has been elevated to the active roster.
Okay. We got a quick timeout. We will talk a little NFL, including the games last night. Sorry, Brandon. That's coming up here on 580. now and then during a season, there's, smaller storylines that just overtake you, right? Do you guys remember Linsanity with Jeremy Lin?
I'll never forget.
Do you guys remember that?
Fondly. It
And
was a lot of fun.
For like a month, he just had the world in the palm of his hand, and he did everything right. It was his 15 minutes, but they kept going for a month. And then after that, he stunk.
Well, he got a nice contract out of the deal.
Yeah,
Turned it into a decent NBA career. He's got a ring.
So, but you remember like the
but it was never like that month was.
But he was playing out of his mind. It
Yes.
was like he was the guy who showed up to like the rec league who was really, really good, and everybody else was just a bunch of bozos, and he just did work, and it was incredible.
And he was representing like an entire ethnicity, like a minority population in the sport of basketball, which made it an even bigger deal.
And
He played 9 years in the league.
Yeah. And Dan, I'm glad you brought up he represented, a whole ethnicity, because
Here we go.
That's what Tommy Cutlets is doing right now. Brendan, I am so sorry right now.
You've heard of Linsanity.
Yeah.
How about Italian sanity?
Yes. We got the throwing the touchdowns, getting it done. Like, Tommy, and first of all, the name is, and Brendan, I'm so upset right now that it happened to the Packers, and I feel so bad because the Packers did a great job leading him back to taking the lead. Like,
yeah, thanks, Saquon. Real quick, it'll get lost in history because the Giants won the game. Saquon Barkley had the worst fumble in NFL history last night. Did you see the play?
Yes.
No, I was asleep.
No, you were asleep.
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley broke off this huge run because Joe Barry has pudding for a brain and his defenses can't stop the run. Running for like 60 yards, starts middle, bounces outside to the right. He gets grabbed from behind, but he shakes the tackle. So he's just kind of stumbling, but he's stumbling long enough that they ruled he wasn't down by contact when he eventually fell. So he fell on his own, landed on the ball, and it popped out.
Oh, yeah, that's fun.
And the Packers picked it up and were like, can we run with this? And they got a 60-yard return. That's what led to the go-ahead touchdown.
Yes.
Listen.
That's how they were going to win the game until Tommy DeVito.
Tommy Cutlets. He is Tommy Cutlets, all right? His family, they make the chicken cutlets right there, and
They
they're handing
wouldn't
them out.
let him throw the ball the first time he had to play, and he is out there throwing darts to Wan'Dale Robinson on a go-ahead field goal drive to win the game.
And the touchdown throw to Hodgins in the corner, that's when I stopped. I was like, wow, look at the Giants. And then his dad is just full on, like, representing the entire country and mantra of Italians. And he's got the Italian pasta, hand maneuver. And then, of course, I swear, Tommy Cutlets looks up and sees him, and he starts doing it. And you got his agent on the field, decked out in the most Goodfellas suit ever, with the hat on. And this is hilarious. Are you ready for this? The Giants are one game back of the wild card.
Listen, my bigger problem with all of this.
Brendan, I'm so sad because I didn't want this to be against the
No,
Packers.
I mean, it is what it is.
I wanted this to be against, like,
I already
the
knew
Lions.
I already knew that Joe Barry was a war criminal before last night. Like, that's nothing new. It is not new to me to have the Packers defense embarrass itself in front of a very bad quarterback. Here's my problem, though. Like, there are lots of people of various ethnicities that play in the NFL. We didn't have, like, Sebi Pierogi, Paczki Janikowski Day. Like, they weren't waving the white and red when Sebastian Janikowski was playing, representing the Poles.
Here's the reason why. One, because his name is Tommy Cutlets. Two, because this dude
we don't need to jazz up his name. Tommy DeVito from Jersey is already perfect.
Yeah. And the sheer fact that he was like the 8th string quarterback coming into, and they gave money to Daniel Jones for some stupid reason. And here, some guy who still lived with his parents and he's fully on board with it.
They signed this guy because they didn't have to, like, they had to pay him room and board. He's like the NFL equivalent of a walk-on, right?
Yes.
Like, oh, well, I mean, if he's going to pay his way, yeah, he can be on the team.
And
That's fine.
He
lives 20 minutes from the facility, lives with his parents. Great. Perfect.
He's there. Who do they play next? because he's going to come down to the real world here.
They play the Saints.
They play the Saints, Eagles, Rams, and Eagles.
Oof.
They ain't winning another game. Okay?
Hey, man, that Eagles secondary is pretty sus.
And the sheer fact that they went with, they paid Daniel Jones $80 million.
Yeah, you know what the funny thing is about that? Like last night, if you watch the game, they won the same way they won last year with Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
The other team apparently has never watched film, and the quarterback is just taking off and running anytime there's pressure, and it's the shocked Pikachu face. I can't believe he can run. Italians can run? I had no idea. I was completely unaware that the people of Italy could run. And then he throws like that one touchdown he had at the end of the game was actually pretty nice. That was a hell of a throw and an even better catch. But you make like 3 throws, a handful of checkdowns, and you scramble. Like, oh my God, I did not know this.
We have been saying
unaware.
We have been saying all year, this is a very strange NFL season.
Yes.
This is the strangest week of the strangest season. Quarterbacks to win starts this week included Bailey Zappi. Desmond Ridder lost, but threw for 347 yards. Yeah. Justin Fields won a start, beat the division leaders by 2 scores. Jake Browning threw for 275 yards. Joe Flacco, 38 years old, threw for 311 yards. Zach Wilson, 301, and the Jets stomped the Texans. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, 368 passing yards. And then the other game last night, Will Levis, 327 yards to the air as Tennessee rallies back.
Brother,
you have something to say about Will Jeans? Billy Jeans?
I'm going to tell you something right here, okay?
Billy Jeans is not my lover.
You know that I'm a big Tua Tagovailoa guy.
Yeah.
I love Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah, you're part of the Tuanon.
Absolutely. We are Legion. Expect us. Tuanon. The best quarterback on the field last night in any game was Will Jeans.
Will Jeans.
He was balling.
I did not watch the ending of it because when they got down 14 points, I said, nope, going to bed. I wake up this morning. I got woken up at 4. Told my son go back to bed. Then got woken up at 6. Looked at my phone. And for the first time in, what is it, 12 years? I want to make sure this is from True Media Sports. Yeah. This century, not 12 years, 23 years. Tennessee is the first team to come back from a 14-point deficit in the final 3 minutes of a game and win in regulation. Not just win. There have been a lot of teams that have been down 14, but they win in overtime. They did what every single person hates. And that is when you're down 14 with 5 minutes to go or 6 minutes to go or whatever it is to go, you score a touchdown, then you go for 2. They did. And what is everybody doing? Go for 1! Go for 1! What are you doing? What are you doing? They went for 2. And they got it. Then what did they need? They just need a touchdown and a PAT, right? Mm-hmm. Instead, you go for 2 twice. You feel like you should get it once.
Right.
That equals your 14. But if you go for 2 the first time, you get it. You already got that in the bag. And what did they do? Scored another touchdown. And it wasn't like this is the touchdown that they scored and then they kicked the field goal with like a second to go. Like that was, I was like, holy crap, they came back and won. I was like, what happened? Did Will Jeans throw a touchdown with a second to go?
No.
He threw a touchdown to go, or not a touchdown, they ran it in. With a minute 40 to go in the game. They scored 2 touchdowns in a minute and a half. That was incredible.
And you laid it out perfectly. That's kind of the new frontier in analytic decisions that's getting a lot of attention in football this year. You're down 14 points, you score, and instead of kicking the PAT to cut it to 7, you go for 2. If you miss it, you feel like on balance, you're going to get 1 out of every 2 2-point conversions.
And most 2-point conversions, if you look, 53%.
Yeah. So that's the math on that. You feel like, okay, we don't get this one, we'll get the other one and we'll tie the game. But if we do get this one, we can win it in regulation. And what is the goal of the game, Jake? Is it to tie?
No, it's
Do
try
you
to
play
win.
to tie the game?
No.
Herm Edwards, do you play to tie the game? No.
No, Herm
You
Edwards.
play to win.
He kicks field goals when you should score touchdowns,
So
but at least he plays to win.
So this should be the kind of thing that people embrace. This is pretty easy to understand. You are playing, when you make the decision to go for 2 there, you are playing to win the game. You are playing to take overtime out of the equation, to take a coin flip that could mean you never see the ball in that extra session. You are giving yourself a chance to dictate whether or not you win or lose a football game.
That's why the phrase chasing points, you hear that all the time. Like, oh, why are they chasing points? Out of curiosity, Mr. Meathead, what do you need to win? There's the entire game is chasing points. That's literally the object of the game.
Now, for me, the Chiefs went for 2 too early in that game.
Again, this weekend?
Yeah. They were down 14-12, and they went for 2. And instead of just taking the batter, or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that was against Green Bay.
Against Green Bay. I'm sorry. The losses are piling up. The game against Green Bay, you were down 14-12. You decided to go for 2 in the tie then. Didn't need to do that. That was too early. You didn't need to go for 2 then. I would have went for 1 because that changes some of the math, and it potentially could have changed the math in that game.
Yeah, but I feel like that game in particular is its own unique case.
Because there were so few possessions.
Yeah, there were so few. Like, if you're the Chiefs, you can't expect, well, we're going to get 4 more chances at this or whatever. You had the ball twice in the entire first half. I think in that game in particular, you had to be more aggressive because your possessions came at such a premium.
Well,
because the way Green Bay was moving it too, you kick it there, you're down 1. Green Bay goes down, scores a touchdown. Well, shoot. Well, they ended up being down 9, down 8, whatever. And their worst fear did indeed come true.
But in that situation for the Titans, the Dolphins needed that one because we have alluded their schedule. And Tyreek Hill listed as day-to-day. That's a different team without number 10 out there running around.
I compare the Dolphins to the 49ers in the sense that if the game doesn't follow their script, I don't know what it looks like. I feel like the 49ers have more answers for that potentially than the Dolphins do. I have been saying this since the season began. I don't know what the Dolphins' plan B is. I don't know what happens to them if they have to deviate from what it is they plan to do when the game starts. I don't think they can change horses midstream.
We got plenty to get to. A lot of Royals news coming up. We will get to that today. We're going to hear from Michael Swain. I want to talk a little college news coming up. We'll get to that coming up here on 580 Sports. talk plenty of Royals baseball in the 3 o'clock hour. Dan,
what's up?
What temperature's the stove?
I would say we've got it not quite to a boil. It might boil. I'll say it's boiling over when the Royals add one more starting pitcher, but it's starting to bubble a little bit. Starting to sizzle.
Hey, the oven's at 400. Like, it's baking. Like,
we're close to broiling here.
It's getting there.
Love a good broil.
I've got Seth Lugo fever. I don't know about the rest.
So we're going to talk with the Royals coming up in the 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock hour.
I think they have antibiotics for that.
And I'd go see a doctor. I want to just briefly get to some college news real quick. One, Nae'Qwan Tomlin choosing to go to Memphis. So Nae'Qwan Tomlin going to Memphis.
He'll play a lot there.
Oh yeah.
I don't say this to besmirch the decision making of Nae'Qwan Tomlin because it makes sense and he's going to get to play right away, and that's a positive. I think the coach he chose to play for is like if you actively chose to go from driving a Mercedes to driving a 3-wheeled Yugo. Like, I think Penny Hardaway is a horrible basketball coach. Like, I genuinely think he's terrible at it. But players love him because he keeps getting good transfers and good recruits, and players love to be there. And I hope Nae'Qwan Tomlin starts immediately. I hope whoever Memphis plays next. What's Memphis' next game?
I don't know their next game, but I'm looking at their roster. They got one guy taller than 6'9".
Well, they
he's gonna play.
Mm-hmm. They play Clemson next.
Clemson's very good.
Yeah,
Are they still unbeaten?
No, they lost one.
I don't know if sure. They're 13th in the country.
Look, all I'm saying, guys,
They are unbeaten.
Head coach is a DePaul man, Brad Brownell.
He is
Uncommon
a wizard.
Success.
No matter how many times you put him on the hot seat, he is going to keep his job.
That's a fact.
Yeah, they're undefeated.
So I told you, Nae'Qwan Tomlin
They just beat TCU.
Heading to Memphis. So we have found out that whatever Nae'Qwan Tomlin did, that we don't know because of rules, perfectly fine at Memphis. And I really do wish Nae'Qwan Tomlin could have screenshot the amount of people that slid into his DMs on Twitter or Instagram or TikTok. Can you message on TikTok?
I don't know.
I'm not on it. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm old.
Yeah.
I'm washed.
All of those teams, whatever he did or has done, they're okay with it. So just to be clear, the Memphis rules and regs perfectly fine for what Nae'Qwan Tomlin has done in the past. Not at Kansas State. I wish we knew what those were. So Tomlin is heading to Memphis. Ben Sinnott heading to the draft. The tight end for the Kansas State Wildcats. That's not a surprise.
Where do you think he ends up in the NFL draft process? Because he's not huge.
No, he's not. He's not a big enough tight end like a Travis Kelce, but he's more like a Noah Gray. I don't think he can block in the NFL like some of these tight ends can, because he's tall enough. He's 6'4".
Yeah,
he's about.
Doesn't seem like he's 6'4".
No, he does. He's only 240,
245,
and so which means he's 240. I think he's going to be a good player. Like I do. I think he can find a role as a second tight end somewhere. I really do.
I think that he's a guy that, like, a really creative offensive coach can find a way to get some good use out of the backfield. Like, I'm not saying he's Kyle Juszczyk, but
he could be.
Have you, like, if you've seen what a sick sentence this is. If you've seen any Kyle Juszczyk highlights, if you've grinded the Kyle Juszczyk tape, the way that he gets used out of the backfield as a receiver over the course of his career could be something where I think Sinnott could be really, really effective in an offense like that.
I think Sinnott's got more wiggle than Juszczyk does.
I do too.
So that's another thing that he has going for it. It's a unique situation.
Depends where you want to line him up.
Could be like, do you guys remember Chris Cooley for
Of course,
Washington.
yeah.
Like, I think he'd be somebody like that.
Yeah, I think someone from that Shanahan tree, I think would make sense because they all use players like that. McVay likes to. The Packers drafted Josiah DeGuara a few years ago from Cincinnati, very similar kind of player. Now, the difference is Josiah DeGuara stinks, but Ben Sinnott in that same kind of role for LaFleur, McVay, maybe the Vikings just re-signed their fullback, but maybe Kevin O'Connell be that second tight end behind Hawkinson that's in Minnesota.
I think he's like a 4th or 5th round pick.
Yeah, I was going to say 4th or 5th, early day 3.
That would be my guess.
Yeah.
But Sinnott heading to the draft. The other thing, K-State's now got 20 guys in the transfer portal. Another one who is now leaving is a guy who I was surprised at. Kobe Savage.
Yeah, we hit on that a bit yesterday, and Dan laid it out pretty well that it was one of those situations where, like,
K-State was ready for him to leave, had recruited with the expectation that he wouldn't be with the program in 2024. And Savage has a chance to, A, get a nice little NIL chunk of change, and B, get out of the 3-3-5 and play a more traditional safety role that might more readily prepare him for the NFL.
My question, and it's not so much, I wonder with what Matt Rule said last week about, it takes $1.5 million to sign a quarterback right now. Like, Kobe Savage is going to get something.
Sure,
I wonder how many players will just go to the transfer portal simply for money. And some people are going to say, you ready for this? Jake, that's just free agency all over again. To which I will say, yeah, it kind of is. But you want to know whose fault it is? I will say this one more time. The people who are upset at all of this, there are people you need to blame. They are athletic directors, they are presidents, and they are the head coaches who didn't see this coming. You want to know who saw this coming? Everyone else. But because the presidents, the chancellors, and all of that, who are a little seasoned in age, didn't want to change. So what did they do? They fought and they fought and they fought. And they lost. And then they still knew the day was coming, but they didn't put any rules together. They could have easily done all of this 3 years ago before COVID happened and just put together and said, here's what we can do. Full, covers everybody, not state by state, school by school, none of that. But did they do that? No, they didn't.
That's someone else's problem. Like you said, they're old. There's someone else's problem. I'm either going to retire with a golden parachute or I'm going to kick the bucket. So
that is
the
reason why. It's not the player's fault. They're just doing what they're supposed to do. It is everyone who made decisions. Coming up next, we're going to talk Royals hot stove. Hour number 2, 580 Sports Talk, coming to you on this Tuesday. Thank you so much for stopping by. Jake LeBon, along with Brendan Dworzynski, Dan Lucero, all here. We got high school hoops tonight, Tuesday night hoops, brought to you by Lewis Toyota. Dan, are you ready for Tuesday night hoops?
I am so ready for Tuesday night hoops.
When was the last time we had Tuesday night hoops?
Last season,
Last
presumably.
season, yeah.
This is our first Tuesday night hoops of the year. And yeah, we didn't have a lot of Tuesday night hoops last year.
No,
Yeah.
we didn't.
K-State played like every Tuesday.
Yeah.
Last December.
Yeah, I think K-State was every Tuesday, January, February last year.
How about that?
Yeah.
Tuesday night hoops.
It's exciting.
We're at the dungeon tonight. By we, I
Dungeon.
mean myself and the coach, Larry Latimer. It is Centennial League action, Topeka High and Manhattan. Girls game scheduled at 6, boys game to follow. We'll be on roughly 5:45 right here on 580 WIBW with Lewis Toyota Tuesday night hoops.
The dungeon. What a great gym.
It is great, Jim. Get loud.
Fantastic gym.
I haven't been in it since before COVID, so it's been a while for me. I'm excited to go back.
Love that gym. So we got that coming up tonight. We will get to Random Question Tuesday. We will also have a little overreaction, proper reaction. We're going to talk 2024 Chiefs because I got some theories I want to run by you guys. So we will get to that coming up today here on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Let us know your thoughts on our text line, 785-272-9429. Check us out on YouTube. You go to the stream, youtube.com, type in 580 Sports Talk. You hit enter, you click on the image. You can check out our YouTube stream of all the shows and the podcasts, and you can move that little cursor wherever you want to. Should be a lot of fun. But it's hot. The hot stove is hot. We'll have to come up with some like hot stove baseball news, or music. Dun, 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 dun,
Dun, dun, dun, dun. Just use the ABC News theme.
He's the I remember how many I used to watch Baseball Tonight.
Yeah.
Back in the day on ESPN.
Obsessively.
Buster Olney. Oh man, Peter Gammons. Oh, I used to watch Baseball Tonight almost every day.
Did you ever hear the heavy metal Peter Gammon song?
No, I have not. And then baseball has completely changed since I was a kid. So, but let's get to the hot stove. The Royals. Look at the Royals, JJ. What are you doing? He says, I'm spending money, Jake. This is what you wanted me to do. And here I am. Look at me roar. The Kansas City Royals have signed. Alrighty. Is Mr. Lugo any good? If you didn't play for the Royals or an American League Central team, I probably didn't pay a whole lot of attention to Mr. Lugo.
As your resident NL West insider, Seth Lugo is good. Seth Lugo last year for the San Diego Padres, an 8-7 record, a 3.57 earned run average. The peripherals fall in line with that ERA. 146 innings in 26 starts, struck out 140, walked just 36. What Seth Lugo has is one of the best and most spinny curveballs in all of baseball. I remember when he was coming up with the Mets, that was because he was with the Mets from 2016 to 2022 before joining the Padres last year. He was on a multi-year deal with an opt-out, and he opted out, and he ended up getting a good chunk more money, $15 million a year, 3 years, $45 million. It's $15 million a year, I believe, over the first two, then a $15 million player option for the third year when Seth Lugo will be 36 years old. There might be some pain at the end of this deal, but on the front end, you're getting a good, durable starting pitcher who can miss some bats and has one of the highest spin rates on his curveball of any pitcher in the major leagues.
So right now, he is your number 2?
Yes.
Behind NASCAR driver Cole Reagans.
Cole Reagans is presumably going to start opening day. I would probably say Lugo lines up right behind him. Right now, it's Brady Singer, Jordan Lyles, and question mark.
Okay. Let me ask you this, Brendan.
Jake.
We turned Brendan up a little bit yesterday.
Got him wound up.
Dennis Gates got him. Okay. Ready? I'm going to wind him up here. Okay. All righty, Brendan. So we got
Doesn't sound very nice.
Cole Reagans starts on Thursday for the Kansas City Royals.
Okay.
Opening day next year. Okay. Then it will be Seth Lugo on Saturday.
Yeah.
Because the Royals will not play on Friday. Because they space out those games.
Yeah. It's very stupid that they do that.
He hates that.
I will
I was
confirm.
like, where is the wind
He
up
hates
here?
the fact that they have off days to start. Because they'll go like a game, off day, game, off day, game, off day in April. And Brendan just hates that.
Clearing the deck for those inevitable rainouts.
Exactly. So Seth Lugo, good situation to be in if you are the Royals. Now, this isn't what I was hoping they would do. I want them to spend. I want them to spend. This is the Royals version of spending, okay? Getting Seth Lugo.
$15 million a year on a mid-rotation starting pitcher. Yeah.
This is not what Jake wants in his baseball team. Now, I'm not saying go out and sign Shohei Ohtani, okay? Not many people have.
Hey, listen, everybody's got $2 million a year, and that's all Shohei's going to play for
the next 10 years. And then he's going to get $680 million after that.
Any team could have done that.
Yeah.
Promise you $680 million starting with a year that doesn't even exist.
Yeah. Honestly, though, that's simply there for tax purposes. Let's be real. He's not going to play or be in California at that time. He'll be somewhere else, and thus the taxes won't be as high. He'll probably be in Florida, where his, and I'm using air quotes here, I know it's not a visual medium, his primary address will be.
YouTube, it's kind of visual.
Yeah. That's all that's there for. He's like, look, I don't want to get taxed on $700 million here in California. That's ridiculous.
To your broader point, like, is Seth Lugo the best starting pitcher on the market? No.
And that's why
is he the best one that's going to take their money?
Yes. Like, this is the best they can do. And that is what sucks. That is what stinks for the Kansas City Royals, is that they choose to play in a different, they're in the kiddie pool. Let's just be real. They're not in the big pool. All right. You got the big pool with diving board. Maybe it's even got a slide, basketball hoop. No, they're over there in the kiddie pool that, it slants in, so it's gradual into the water and it's only 3 feet. That's where the Royals play. That's it. That's what the Royals are doing. They don't have the money to go after a,
Yoshinobu Yamamoto
or the Cy Young guy, Blake Snell, or they don't have the money to go. Like, they've been linked to Marcus Stroman. They don't have the money for Marcus Stroman.
They do have the money for Marcus,
but they're not going to pull the. I don't think they will, because it's going to probably cost $20 million. They're not going to spend $20 million for Marcus Stroman. Like, this is it. Like, Royals fans.
That's the annoying thing, though. Like, they have that money.
They do.
They could.
But they're choosing to swim in the baby pool.
And Stroman would be a really good fit in Kansas City too. That could be. And look, this is a two-way street. Of course, they could have called Stroman's people. That's been rumored that they have interest. The interest may not be mutual. Marcus Stroman is in his 30s. Maybe he wants to win a ring and doesn't feel like Kansas City is where he's going to do that, going to be able to do that. And that's a higher priority for him. And so he's not real interested to come to Kansas City. They do have
the money, but the Royals are choosing to swim in the baby pool instead of actually going out in the big pool and go down the slide and have fun and try to do a gainer off the top diving board, or do a 1.5, or do a can opener, or you can be fun and silly and do a pencil and you can, you know what I mean? But like this is it. Ready, Royals fans? This is the best it's going to get this offseason. This is the best it's going to get. Seth Lugo. That's what it is. And when I said I want them to go out and spend, at least they're doing this. And that's where we're at. At least they're doing the bare minimum.
This is
the bare minimum.
Well, in the sense of like adding. Like,
when I want them to do something, this is them doing it.
Yes. Like, they're not going to sign Yamamoto, who's the best free agent pitcher on the market. And they're not going to sign Blake Snell, who's the second best free agent pitcher on the market. Like those,
or Arias, the Dodgers.
You don't want him. Scumbag wife beater. Don't want him. Don't want him. No, he may
not be in.
Yeah, he may not get a contract from anybody.
Okay, then not him. Then who is the other one that? Aaron Nola. You can go out and get Aaron Nola.
Aaron Nola re-signed with the Phillies like 2 seconds into free agency.
Yeah.
Previous, like, he signed that quickly?
Yes.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah,
Like,
he was never really on the
that's
market.
what I want them to.
Like
but
Sonny
this is it.
Gray was $25 million a year. That would have been a nice addition. Like, yeah, like
But the Stroman, like, to me, there's zero reason why they shouldn't hammer out a deal
that's
with
the kind of deal they can do,
And then-
and it would be a good fit.
And if you do that, you
can't make them sign. It's not like MLB The Show where you make the interest bar go all the way green and then the deal gets done.
Well, no, there's a way you can make the interest bar go all the way green, though, Dan.
Offering the most money.
You give him the most money. Now, if you had Cole Reagans as your starter, Marcus Stroman number 2, Seth Lugo number 3, Brady Singer number 4, and now maybe Chris Stratton, because that is another one that they have just signed.
Now, Stratton hasn't been a regular starter in the bigs since 2018.
Can we combine Lyles and Stratton and say that's your 5th starter, and give them, swap them back and forth? Because that's basically what might end up happening.
The goal is to push Jordan Lyles as far down on the depth chart as
exactly.
possible, right? And to do that, they do need one more starter, whether that's a significant financial outlay in free agency or whether that's via trade. I still think that might be a possibility because there's this glut of outfielders that the Royals have.
Not any good
outfielders / DHs, and they can't play them all. They can't. So, maybe trade one of those guys for a starting pitcher, whether that's Edward Olivares or MJ Melendez or Drew Waters. Trade one of those guys, get an arm back, put him in the rotation, and continue to make Jordan Lyles further and further down the depth chart. Like, that has to be the goal if you're building a pitching rotation. But the past couple of years, like, the best you were getting was Jordan Lyles. This is not quite the statement of intent. Like, I don't think Seth Lugo is quite the caliber of pitcher that Gil Mesh was when the Royals signed him back in.
All right, is he Jason Vargas?
He's better than Jason Vargas.
Okay, he's better than Jason
I think he's
Vargas.
better than Jason Vargas.
Well, no. When they signed Jason Vargas, I still remember we got a major announcement coming. We're like, whoa, what is happening? And then the press release came out like 2 days later. We're signing Jason Vargas. And we're like, wait a minute, that's your big announcement? Jason Vargas? I mean, they didn't need to do that to Jason Vargas. They did. But like, and Dan, you're correct. Lugo is better than.
This is a meaningful upgrade. This is not an upgrade in the sense of like, oh, here's a guy who's going to stand there and throw 160 innings like Jordan Lyles. This is a meaningful upgrade at a position that desperately needed not just one, but multiple meaningful upgrades. Now, you can't sign Seth Lugo, throw a parade, and call it good. Like, they need at least one more credible starting pitcher. But, I mean, the bar is set so low for the Royals that just doing something, being proactive instead of reactive in the market, stands as a step in a positive direction.
Yeah, and I'll give Piccolo credit for this and getting this deal done now as opposed to in past years when maybe it was like late February and pitchers and catchers are about to report and, oh, so-and-so is still on the scrap heap. Let's go pick them up for peanuts. And I know that's not just your general manager. That's your ownership as well, allowing you to open up the purse strings and what have you. So, but I give Piccolo at least a little bit of credit for adding competent players to this roster. I mean, we're at, and I don't want to go too far in praise of Piccolo either, because he, A, hasn't been on the job all that long, and B, the Royals were one of the worst teams in baseball last year. But I mean, he's in his Henry Clay era. He's the great compromiser at this point. He's getting everyone to compromise that the Royals, yes, we agree, we need to be better. We could do more, but we're going to add some pieces. We're going to meaningfully upgrade our roster. We're still going to give a lot of opportunity to young guys who need to get at bats, or possibly, we brought up the name Daniel Lynch the other day. He's going to be able to maybe fight for a 5th starting spot because we still think someone's there. And we can also all at the same time agree that my predecessor, Dayton Moore, was a complete and utter fool, save for like 4 years when he built the championship team.
Hey, thank you, Dayton. Hey, that's 2-time World Series champion Dayton Moore.
Here's the thing, though. Like, I don't know.
Was he with the Rangers this year?
Yeah.
I don't know that it has to be like the Royals won 56 games last year. It's going to be really hard to add 25 wins in free agency. And all that does is get you to 500, right?
The 25 wins comes from a few for free agency, but you just need you need your bats and bullpen,
internal development, right?
The bullpen, I don't care about a bullpen until I know you're going to be good.
And I think it will go a long way intangibly for this team if they do have, when the season starts, 4 guys at least that you can line up and say, hey, they're going to give us 6 quality with a chance to win. And if you do Reagan's, Singer, Lugo, and free agent or trade target X, who's got that on their resume, that they can be a guy who takes their turn every 5 days and gives you a chance to win, that will be a psychological improvement to this team, where last year they were looking at every 5 days and saying, man, we got a chance to maybe win one. That matters. But
yeah,
for whatever it's going to be for the Royals next year, at least this bit of proactivity from the front office says, we acknowledge that it cannot be what it has been, that it has to get better. And we are willing to dip our toes in the free agent market and give a pitcher in their mid-30s a $15 million a year contract to meaningfully improve the baseline of this roster, because we acknowledge that last year cannot be repeated. We cannot take a 56-win team and say, well, internal improvement will give us the leap up the standings that we need. No, you can't do that again, because that's been the party line for 6 years and it hasn't happened.
Now, I want to preface, you said dip your toe in to the free agent market. That's the baby pool. Okay. It's all relative. We're all like, yeah, look at that. The Royals are spending money relative to the baby pool. Okay. They have the funds to do that. That's why you get so frustrated with the Ricketts, because they've got more money than Scrooge McDuck. Okay. They print money with their own TV, everything, right? Because they don't have to worry about their TV deal. They're in-house. So, like, that's my point, is that the Royals do have the money. They're just not spending it. They're actively trying to win the baby pool. Like, hey.
Also known as the American League Central.
Yeah. Well, just look what you could do if you actually really tried. Really did. This is just, hey, we're going to try and we're going to do the bare minimum. You know, this is more than
the bare minimum.
Signing Seth Lugo is more than the bare minimum. The bare minimum was Jordan Lyles. That's your bare minimum. Seth Lugo is quite a bit better than Jordan Lyles.
I'm
You didn't even know who Seth Lugo was until the top of the show today.
Oh, I knew the name. I didn't know if he was any good. Because I don't watch American or National League West baseball like Dan does, which is understandable.
But signing a guy who pitched to a 3.57 ERA in 26 starts last year, 146 in the third innings, like, that's better than the bare minimum. The problem is, again, you want to talk about compromise. You, as a Royals fan, you have to accept the fact that your franchise does not want to spend with the big dogs.
Yeah, that's right.
Granted,
it's the baby pool.
Many of the big dogs don't want to spend with the big dogs.
Yes.
The Boston Red Sox should be contending for a World Series every single season.
The Red Sox got outbid for Seth Lugo by the Royals. But, like, here's the difference. Seth Lugo, career ERA plus per Baseball Reference, 115. That means he's been 15% better than a league average pitcher when it comes to his earned run average over the course of his career. Jordan Lyles' career ERA plus is 81. 19% worse than the average pitcher. It's a miracle he's pitched 1,500 major league innings. I mean, I don't know who he has pictures of or who he sold his soul to, but it is remarkable that someone that bad has pitched that many major league innings.
I want to discuss two things real quick. Chris Stratton. So you end up thinking he's going to be a bullpen guy?
Yeah, swing arm. But 82 and 2/3 innings and 64 relief appearances last year. So a multi-inning reliever.
They need this guy, because you need 8-9 starting pitchers in Major League Baseball nowadays. Like, you just need it. So this guy can maybe, cover the gap for a little bit. That's why he's not, prime Andrew Miller, but he's not. They need him. Like, this will help.
There's value in veteran presence, because last year the Royals bullpen was Aroldis Chapman and a bunch of 24-year-olds. Like, it will help having guys like Chris Stratton and Will Smith around to be an example to some of those young guys.
Alrighty. I hope he lands somewhere. But Zach Greinke's representatives have communicated to teams that he's preparing to pitch in 2024 and is open to contract talks. Does he pitch this year? I didn't say for a specific team. Just does Greinke, does he get signed?
I just don't think there's anything left. And I hate saying that because I love watching Zach Greinke pitch. But last year it was a chore to watch Zach Greinke pitch because he just didn't have anything in the tank.
He had some good moments last year. They were obviously more bad than good, but a part of the reason why was because the Royals just sucked so bad.
Hey, he took the ball 30 times and pitched 142 innings. And I would imagine that there are some teams that are out there who say, hey, a veteran who could give us 130, 140 innings and be an example to our young guys. Yeah, we could use that. I would consider it a positive if the Royals would consider themselves beyond that for 2024.
I just want him to get 21 more strikeouts.
Like let him be a national. Let him be a Rocky. Let him be
Rocky Royal great Zach Greinke.
Man, fingers crossed.
I have no desire to ever watch Zach Greinke pitch again.
Hey,
his send-off was great.
Hey,
I'm
man.
glad he got to finish his career in his Kansas City career the way he did.
Yep.
I'm glad he didn't have to finish on just one win. The players around him in the clubhouse loved him, and that is great, and he's going to go to the Hall of Fame. I hope I never have to watch 40-year-old Zach Greinke pitch a baseball game.
I want him to pitch so he can get 3,000 strikeouts.
But it would be so much more Zach Greinke to not.
No, it would be so much more Zach Greinke to have 2,999 and then retire.
Then I would hate it. My opinion would change
be,
completely.
That would be hilarious.
I hate numbers that end in 999. I hate it.
That would you hate shopping then?
How do you feel about Dale Murphy and his 399 career?
Awful. Just disastrous. I know I don't hate shopping because there's tax.
But the you hate the signs then.
Yeah, just like the cons. Just go one more. Why can't you get to a round number?
Tell me it's $7 and not $6.
No, the reason they do that is your face just sees the big number and you think 6 instead of 7.
Like right now, the gas station down here at the Sam's Club, that's $2.59 and 9/10. No, it's $2.60 for a gallon of gas. Most people would say no, it's $2.59. Wrong. Round up to $2.60. Just put the extra hay penny in there. Come on, let's just.
But the whole point is
get on with ourselves. Let's be realistic.
It's advertising, Brendan. It's supposed to trick you. It's not 6. It's $6.99. But if you put 7, they're like, whoa.
Well, I'm not tricked because I can read.
Wind him up.
Yeah, you did it. You eventually did it.
I did. Eventually did it. All righty. We will take a quick time out. We got random question news. I got a very important question for you guys coming up. It's very important. And then we'll play overreaction, proper reaction. Question Tuesday. All right, got a serious question. One for you, Dan. Also, Brennan, you can do it in your own special way. What looks good to you Christmas lights wise? Are you a solid color, or are you a multicolor, or are you change color?
What do you mean I can do it in my own special way?
Like you can put up in like you don't have you have an apartment.
Yeah,
so like
I hang Christmas lights.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like in you don't hang them outside.
Okay,
that's what I'm
no,
saying.
I do.
Hey, you hang them on a balcony.
You hang them on a balcony? Oh, cool.
No, not on the around our door and our window.
Okay, cool.
We're
okay.
the only one. I string them up every year.
That's what I'm saying. Like in your
special
way. Like, I don't know.
I was like only 80% paying attention coming back from commercial break. I sort of needed a moment to like reboot the system there.
That's okay.
And I thought I was being insulted.
So do you? No,
that's
like
my bad.
Your own special way is like how you do. I love Christmas lights.
Me too.
I do. Do you put them up?
I do.
Okay. What's your philosophy here?
You know, I always liked the multicolored lights, but I also am fond of, like, you've seen the ones that are like icicles. They're like the white lights, and they kind of like string down as you hang them across your roof or whatever. I really like how that looks, especially if they're the LED kind and it looks like there's motion.
Yep.
Those are really slick.
Dan, you're going to love my next statement here.
Okay.
We do those.
Oh, yeah.
I looked into
the motion lights.
Not the motion lights, Dan. I work in radio.
Hey, one of these days.
So we put those up over the weekend because it was nice enough weather this past weekend. Lindsay wanted to put them up November 1st. I said, can't do that. But we do. We did the icicles this year. Looks good. We cover our bushes. And then I always tell people, if you ever want to give my wife something for a gift, just give her something for Christmas that we can put out on for like lights or whatever. So like last year, someone gave her one of the Santas that you can stick on like a bush and it inflates up. It looks like Santa got stuck in the bush. Funny, hilarious. My son laughs every time he sees it. And then we got another one where I put it together and it's like a Santa sleigh thing with lights on it and all that kind of stuff. We did the clear Christmas lights. Also, very particular about lights. My wife wants them very tight, not like the loopy, it needs to be very, level all the way across.
Okay.
Like, are you like that?
I
specific?
am not. We don't hang a huge amount. We just kind of cover. We've got like a little overhang on our patio leads to our door, and we've got a single level, ranch style house. So we just hang on the overhang, and then we kind of wrap around. We've got little posts, and we just wrap them around the post. So it's a very, very simple, very no frills. But I don't think I'm ever going to get to the point where it's like, oh, I'm the house that like tuned to 88.9 and listen to the music while all our lights move. And
you're not the Cortez house?
No.
Sad fact, the Cortez house not doing it this year.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not even going to tell my son that. But do you like go around and look at Christmas lights one night a year? I
have always enjoyed doing that. I really have. I love Christmas, and I get very sentimental about Christmas, and I do. I like to drive through and see some, even just a random neighborhood, just kind of drive through and say, yeah, well, I wonder what's cracking on like 19th and Vine or whatever. That's not a real thing here, but like you get the idea. Like I wonder what's popping in this little subdivision.
From the text line, anything but white. But what about the icicle white? Is that okay?
I like the icicle whites.
Yeah, from the text line, Cortez moved to Kansas City. I know, I was so sad. That place was awesome. Oh, that was like the Griswolds. Like, it really, really was.
Was that the one off Gage Park?
No. That's the east of town.
Okay.
Far east of town. That was awesome. Bummed. But, like, what about text line? What about the ones that look like the icicles that droop down? Because that's what I did. Please don't hate that. My kids really like it. Will you drive around? Do you look at Christmas lights? Not a big Christmas light guy?
No, I mean, I like Christmas. I've got some, like, personal beliefs that have some beef with like I'm pretty much like Charlie Brown, like have some issues with the commercialization of Christmas all year long.
No, we definitely know that because Jingle Bells is not a Christmas song.
I also feel like I was misrepresented in that discussion, but that can be brought up another day. No, growing up, where I grew up in a fairly nice area, but one town over in Hinsdale and Burr Ridge in DuPage County, very upscale suburbs. You know people from Hinsdale, Dan,
Yes,
you went to
yes, I
college
do.
with. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been to Hinsdale.
Money. People every year when there's like the mega.
Do they have like an HOA where they have to do like blue lights or red lights or green lights?
No, I don't think so. But the biggest houses that have like huge property on County Line Road between Cook and DuPage counties, there's traffic on those roads at night this time of year, like legitimate traffic, because people will just drive and look at the lights on these gigantic McMansion houses.
Yeah. We go
It's
around,
cool.
We go around every year to watch it. And if you haven't yet, go to Winter Wonderland. $10 goes to a good cause. Winter Wonderland's cool.
Yeah. It is cool. Go check it out.
Yeah, Winter Wonderland. Go do it.
For me,
Sorry, that was a really long random question.
not what is your favorite dad joke. What is your dad's favorite joke?
I don't know if I could tell you.
Is that because you can't think of it?
Not, because I can't think of it. Not because it's not suitable for radio.
I thought about this last night watching football because, and I think I've shared this before, my dad's is probably anytime he watches a Miami Dolphins game and a player for Miami gets hurt, which is a little twisted. But then he goes, "Hey, look, there's a dolphin down on the field." And then he starts like flopping around a little bit. He's like, "Hey, there's a dolphin out there."
All right.
Hell yeah, that is awesome.
Oh yeah, my dad loves that one. That's
There's
an all-timer.
dolphin down on the field. Help.
Yeah, that's a staple every football season.
I can't think of one right off the top of my head.
I can tell you one like stand-up comedy gag that my dad thought was really, really funny. And I guess when I was a boy, like an infant, used to sing to me. You ever see Robin Williams do Porky Pig doing that song Fire?
No, I got nothing there, Dan. We'll have to look it up during
Bruce
the break.
Springsteen. It's a Bruce Springsteen song. And Robin Williams does, Elmer Fudd. Sorry, not Porky Pig. Elmer Fudd. Robin Williams doing Bruce Springsteen's Fire as Elmer Fudd. My dad, I think, thought that was the funniest thing he'd ever seen in his life back in whenever that was.
My dad always used, did the typical dadism. We got here just in time. And then there's a line behind you. And
Man, I say that every time Abby and I go anywhere.
I used to say that a lot, but he never had like the absolute, like that I can think off the top of my head right now.
By the way, I just sort of realized this. I didn't actually answer your question from earlier. I prefer white lights outside and colored lights inside. However, Abby prefers white lights. So our inside strand of lights on our wall, that's white. The lights I put outside, she lets me put the colored ones outside. Our tree, you can switch between white and colored lights.
Ooh.
So when she's awake, white lights. After she goes to bed, I hit the thing and change it to colored
Club
lights.
Brzezinski is open.
Yeah.
It goes to the colored lights.
After hours at the Drzezinski
Oh my God.
No, I think we're typical Christmas tree there. But our Christmas tree looks a lot different this year because it's all sorts of Christmas ornaments that our kids put together. So
That's nice.
it's way better. I like those ornaments better than like the big red balls and the silver balls.
No, ones that have meaning are always more
they're
fun.
way cooler. And we also got a Santa that climbs up the tree. That's kind of cool this year.
Like the mountain climber from Price is Right?
Yeah.
Oh, that rules.
I'll send it. I'll take a photo of it. I'll say, Lawson, turn it on. He turns it on and goes, look, he's going. And then he'll count the steps. 1, 2, 3.
That's funny.
Fantastic. What do you got, Dan?
While we're on the subject of Christmas decorations, is there an ornament on the tree that is of a specific meaning to you or your significant other, something that you always enjoy seeing on the tree?
I'll tell you what we did was when our very first Christmas, Lindsay and I do it every single year. Our first Christmas was in 2015. We get an ornament for each other and we have an ornament tree. You know, one of them like small skinny trees.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's like 5 feet tall.
Sure.
And so, and it has to do something like with, like that happened during the year.
Mm-hmm.
So like when we moved into our house, I bought an ornament that had, like a house, right? When Lawson was born, it was a picture of 3 people. Then when Bryn was born, it was mine was really easy for 2 years in a row. Just add 1 person to the ornament. Real lazy, I know.
Yeah.
But that would be the ornament, or just the entire tree. It's kind of a cool little thing we do.
Yeah, I like that.
By the way, I haven't gotten her an ornament yet, so I need to do that.
Abby and we have one that, for our wedding, we had one that said our first Christmas engaged, which ended up also being our only Christmas engaged. We weren't engaged all that long. Outside of those for sentimental reasons, it's my ornament of Clay Matthews. He's doing his predator pose.
See, so the Hallmark athlete ornaments, that was a tradition. We would always get an ornament from my grandmother, my mom's mom, who's since passed. But she would always get us an ornament every year. And after a while, when they started making the sports figure ones, we would just get whoever it was.
That's awesome.
And some of them were natural fits, right? I've got 4 different Seahawks on the tree: Wilson, Sherman, Earl.
Yeah, wait, who's the outlier here?
Probably Earl Thomas.
No, did you ever get one that's an outlier of
some of them, Sammy Sosa is a year-to-year decision as to whether he goes on the tree. I've got
that's what I was wondering.
I got Notre Dame Joe Montana for some reason.
Well, that's
actually,
awesome.
my grandmother was a huge Joe Montana fan, so that's kind of a fun one. My brother, got this ugly as hell Dale Earnhardt one.
Hell yeah,
Intimidator, man.
Yeah, and every year my brother goes over to my parents' house and tries to hang it really prompt. It is ugly. It is an ugly and
that's
garish
a fun
ornament.
Tradition though that he tries to sneak it on the tree. I like that. That's
but so that's always been it's always been a cool tradition to put to get the whatever player was. I got Nuggets, Carmelo, Anthony. I've got a Peyton Manning Colts one, and it's fun to put those all up on the tree.
I also
George Brett is on the tree. Patrick Mahomes is on the tree.
The
Sammy Sosa. That had been in '96.
The Sandbar bar in Lawrence, they have the little sharks, little toy sharks that you squirt the, whatever into your drinks. And I have had a couple of those over the years that I've just taken from the bar, not with any alcohol in them. And I kept that on the tree until this year. The one that I had, I took it out of the box and there was stuff growing inside. And I realized, I didn't clean this out before putting it away after I brought it home from the bar.
Hey, did somebody say Christmas lights?
Yeah!
The most cheerful event of the year returns for another season, bigger and brighter than ever. That's Zoo Lights, presented by Evergy at the Topeka Zoo, a treasured, twinkling Topeka tradition. Create memories and traditions at Zoo Lights. Tickets on sale now at topekazoo.org.
If you don't go to Zoo Lights, you're missing out. It's so much fun. Can't wait.
Yeah.
But we'll end Random Question Tuesday with a dad joke. Fantastic. From the text line. What does a snail say when he's riding on a turtle's back?
Slow down?
Whee!
Oh, gosh.
Go to break.
We're going to break.
Fantastic! Look at proper reaction. Right now, the Kansas City Chiefs will cut at least 2 of their wide receivers before next year.
Oh, no, that's proper reaction.
Yeah, I mean, cut or just not bring back.
Because they're gonna.
Because what, Richie James isn't on a multi-year deal, is he? He's on a 1-year deal. Watson they'll probably bring back. I guess they're gonna cut MVS like that, but we thought that before the season began.
Okay, 3 then. 3, because I forgot about Richie James, because honestly, to me, he doesn't even count anymore.
So I guess the question is, do you think they're going to cut Kadarius Toney? And I don't think they're going to cut.
Will they cut Kadarius Toney, or will they cut Sky Moore?
I don't think they're going to cut Sky Moore.
Or they cut Justin Watson.
I mean, without knowing how much draft/free agent capital they're going to spend on the wide receiver spot, I would assume it would be fairly significant as those things go. It's hard to say exactly who will be back and who won't. I have a hard time, though, thinking that they've got guys who are on rookie deals that they're going to move off of. So I don't know. I think MVS is gone. I wouldn't be surprised they didn't ask Justin Watson back. I don't think they're going to ask Richie James back, but like Toney and Moore are probably going to hang around. Toney more likely than Moore.
Why?
Because I think Kadarius Toney's still a playmaker and they believe in him.
I'm going to say it is going to be, I think 2 will get cut. I think Sky Moore is going to get cut.
So you think MVS? So you think
I think MVS and Sky Moore get cut.
And Richie James then?
Oh, you change yours to 3 then.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
They're not bringing back Richie James.
I forgot Richie James was a person.
Yeah, I mean, they won't bring him back. I mean, they barely have him now.
So yeah, I think it's a bit of an overreaction, but it might not be. It might be that they decide they need a clean house and that just fumigate the wide receiver room entirely.
I mean, it might only be
start over with Rashee Rice and
Kadarius Toney.
Maybe Toney. Yeah.
That's it. I think theoretically you could have those other 4 gone in MVS, Sky Moore, Richie James, and Justin Watson.
Yeah, kind of crazy to say. All right, here's one. I'll follow up on that then. Other than Rashee Rice, the wide receiver I would most want to bring back from this year to next year for the Chiefs would be Kadarius Toney.
Overreaction. It's Justin Watson.
That's a proper reaction. He's got the highest ceiling, and I don't think they're going to give up on him just yet. I think the issues that Kadarius Toney have not, like, he is an outlier athlete. His ceiling is still incredibly high. Can he not be a knucklehead is the question.
No.
Yeah, the problem with...
And it's not like knucklehead stuff like, oh, he's getting suspended, he's running afoul of the law. Like, it's just like
he's a space case.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's been a bit of a space cadet.
We're all
can you bring him back down to earth?
This means more to me than it likely will to either of you. Kadarius Toney is football Starlin Castro. Played shortstop for the Cubs for several years. Starlin Castro would make plays. He'd be like doing somersaults into the outfield, catching the ball between his legs. And you think this is the most talented shortstop in history.
You mean the longest punt return in Super Bowl history?
Yeah, that's Toney's play. And Starlin Castro, ground ball right to him, routine play, would go right through his legs. It's like, what are you doing? And that's Kadarius Toney lining up in the neutral zone in the 4th quarter of a game. Like that, they are very similar to me in that regard, that they make the complicated look impressive because they've got that athletic ceiling, and they make the simple look ridiculously dumb because they just don't pay attention. I would rather have him than Justin Watson. I think Watson comes back because he's not making any money, but I think Toney, based on the fact that he is a playmaker like that, I think is the most intriguing of them.
To me,
again, outside of Rice,
it comes down to he's probably good for about 5 plays a year, because you have to combine the injury problems with the I don't catch the ball, I don't do, like, he's good for about 5 plays a year. Is 5 plays a year better than what Justin Watson brings over the course of 16, 17, 18 games? I mean, you could argue that Justin Watson's made the bigger play this year than Kadarius Toney. Big catch against the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, that was a huge play.
Yeah. But Toney made one in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
All right, overreaction, proper reaction. I'm shifting conferences. The Dallas Cowboys are the favorites in the NFC.
I'm selling that. I'm still saying it is going to be the 49ers if they are healthy.
No, I think it's the proper reaction. I think the Cowboys I think they are the favorites. I think they should be the favorites. And I will give you the same reason that I will always give you about doubting the San Francisco 49ers.
And Brock Purdy.
No, not Brock Purdy. I'm more confident in Brock Purdy than his head coach.
Ooh, good point.
Name a big game that Kyle Shanahan has showed up for. Name one that Mike McCarthy has showed up for. Super Bowl 45. There you go.
That's fair. That's fair criticism of both coaches. I really like what Dallas has offensively right now. I think it's the best offense Dallas has had in years. Like legitimately, not just like the skill position talent, which is evident. Like their scheme is really, really good right now. Kellen Moore's been a pretty good hire for them, as it turned out. Or pretty good to let him get away.
I was gonna say the crazy thing is, do you know who their offensive coordinator is?
It's Schottenheimer, isn't it?
It's Brian Schottenheimer, which going into this year was a joke. Like you replaced Kellen Moore with Brian Schottenheimer, and now Schotty Jr. and Mike McCarthy are going to pair up.
That ended up being a good idea because, like, I don't know how long it will work with Schottenheimer, but I know Russell Wilson had a really good year with Brian Schottenheimer. Like, there's some scheme stuff there that really works, and it's working for the Cowboys.
McCarthy knows how to coach offense. The problem is he just never. He hits a peak, and then it's going to be 5 years of the exact same stuff.
And he's game time decisions.
Yes, that's it.
Are you ready? We from the text line, from the 913. We've McCole Hardman. We forgot about McCole Hardman.
Yeah, I didn't forget. I did not forget.
That was not an error of omission.
No.
That was the omission was intentional.
Enjoy the zoo. Enjoy going bowling.
Better get ready to learn BC Lion, buddy.
Coming up, we'll talk about the Chiefs in the year 2024, next year on 580 Sports Talk. Sports Talk coming to you on a Tuesday. Thank you so much for stopping by. We will talk with Michael Swain of fog.net, 24/7 sports on all things KU Jayhawks. The booth. Start to tear it down. Did you get emotional today, Brendan?
No. I mean,
there were some people on my social media timelines that were like, oh, wow, this is exciting yet sad at the same time.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, it's one of the oldest football stadiums in America. It's pretty cool that KU had that.
Yeah.
And
people forget that.
Yeah. People do forget that. Oldest one west of the Mississippi.
Yeah.
So, no, I mean, that's a bummer. And I spent a lot of time in that stadium, in the press box, in the crowd. Most of it wasn't good, but I spent a lot of time there. And yeah, I mean, it's exciting. It'll be weird though, playing in a partially full stadium or partially in someone else's stadium for next year. So.
Yeah, what are they gonna do? It's supposed to be half full. Right?
I don't want to pass off someone's paywalled reporting and give it out for free. I would just say go be a VIP at 24/7 Sports. Michael Swain got you covered on that.
Just imagine one day being at a KU football home game, covering a KU football home game, and standing in line and getting on an elevator and then it actually working.
Are you telling me it doesn't take 35 minutes for the elevator to make one trip up and down?
Not spending 45 minutes getting intimately familiar with maybe a KU assistant coach, maybe some TV folks, maybe some press, some writers, maybe some members of the catering crew as you go through your arduous journey up the elevator shaft.
Maybe just some random people who are going to a suite.
Yeah.
It is top 3 worst elevators I've ever been on.
The worst though was the Cessna Stadium.
Correct.
The Cessna Stadium.
Hard agree.
Yes.
I thought I was gonna die.
Terrifying.
That was the worst. I
never used it again.
Yeah.
I walked stairs. Never again.
I covered a high school football
Scary.
state semifinal there in 2013, I think it was. And to describe it as harrowing doesn't quite cut it.
It's called a fear bond. Okay. If you ride with somebody did ride with somebody in the Cessna Stadium down in Wichita elevator, and you were with them, that was a fear bond. You were bonded together by fear. And you decided to do that. It's like, hey, we know what a fear bond is? A fear bond is, climbing up Mount Everest. You're going to remember who you were with when you climbed Mount Everest.
It was
terrifying.
Yeah, that was a terrible elevator ride. I said I had a top 3. The only one that I would rate, not as bad as Cessna, but still worse than David Booth, Kansas Memorial Stadium, War Memorial Stadium in Laramie, Wyoming, home of the Wyoming Cowboys. They may have gotten it upgraded by now. I hope so, for everyone's sake. That elevator made noises that were not natural. That was terrifying.
You gotta love the good old terrifying elevators. They're good. They're good for you.
The school where I took classes when I studied abroad, they had a building. Oh, yeah, roll your eyes. Yeah.
Get
cool.
a load of this guy, Jay.
They had an
Mr.
elevator.
Cosmopolitan over here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We call him Mr. Backpack.
Yeah, Leicester, England, real cosmopolitan. They had one building, though. The elevator didn't stop. It went around. Like it just never stopped moving. So you had to time stepping on or stepping off of it.
I've seen those where it's like a thing. Yeah.
I rode it once all the way around to see what it was like. It just gets dark. You just
not gonna lie, I do that too.
Kind of behind the wall.
Yeah,
like,
you'd want to see.
I know.
Yeah.
It's kinda
No, it especially when it's going up and you have to get off. Yeah, it's kind of freaky.
Yeah. We would love for you to let us know your terrifying elevator stories.
Yes,
hit us
please.
up on our text line.
This is 580 Elevator Talk.
785-272-9429. You can check us out on our YouTube page. Very simple as well. Go to youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk. I want to discuss 2024, right? We kind of did that a little bit, an overreaction, proper reaction when I asked you who's coming back next year. Is Tony, is MVS, is Sky Moore, Richie James, McCole Hardman, Justin Watson. Didn't need to say Rashee Rice. We know he's coming back. Yeah. But let me ask you about one, and our good friend Seth Kaiser did a little film breakdown on Wanya Morris.
Wanye.
He's got another. I would give him another crack at it, even if Donovan Smith is healthy. I would say, you're up, kid. Let's see what you can do back-to-back games. I want to see how you handle going against the New England Patriots, because I hate to break this to everybody, but the New England Patriots defense is back to being the New England Patriot defense. They're playing well. They really are. You see the over-under in this game for the Chiefs?
It's the lowest in Mahomes' career.
By 4 points.
37.5.
Yes. This is a defense that's starting to figure it out a little bit. And I want to see what Morris does. Now, there are some things that Morris didn't do well in the game against the Bills. You gotta chop the hands down. When you're throwing a screen pass, what are you taught, right? Gotta chop the hands down. But the guy who's throwing the ball, I expect more out of, superstar, the MVP, Patrick Mahomes, to not throw the ball directly into a guy. I expect that. But you got to get the hands down. He's been good against the run, or good for the run for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think you let him go even if Donovan Smith is healthy. If this kid can play left tackle for 24 and 25 and 26, the Kansas City Chiefs now have opened up a potential money savings that they probably I'd only dreamt and only really hoped. Because drafting a guy in the 3rd round, you're hoping that he's going to be the guy at left tackle for Patrick Mahomes. Because if he is, that is now you don't have to solve it every single year. Like this year, it was, we found some guy in Donovan Smith. We had to have an extenuating circumstance in 2023. You don't have to have that in 24. You don't have to have that in 25. If this kid can steadily improve and Anthony Heck can find a way to Andy Heck. I say Anthony Heck. Andy Heck, find a way to keep him improving. That's bigger than if the Chiefs, to me, re-sign L'Jarius Sneed or what you get from or for Chris Jones. That's how big. If Morris can be your left tackle, all of that money can go somewhere else. That's so big. And I give him a chance. I give him another crack at it. I really, really do. Donovan Smith ain't the future. Morris is. Could be.
We know they liked him because they moved up 3 spots in the draft and kicked in a 6th rounder besides to make sure that they got him in this year's draft. And while I can't say that I have eaten the Wanya Morris tape and watched every snap and have all these thoughts about his technique or his form or how he fits the scheme or whatever it is, I can tell you this. You know what I didn't hear on Sunday from Carl Cheffers? Holding number 64 offense, or false start, number 64 offense, or illegal hands to the face, number 64 offense.
Lined up, normal.
Yes. I didn't hear number 64 out of Carl Cheffers' mouth. That, to me, suggests some progress because we know this offensive line has struggled to avoid penalties, and we know that Donovan Smith has struggled to avoid penalties this season. It was a problem for him last year with Tampa Bay. There was some hope that was maybe because he was covering for an injury, but he's continued to kind of be penalty prone again here in 2023. For a Chiefs team that simply needs to avoid making simple mistakes to really find its traction, Wanya Morris has avoided making those mistakes. Now, he hasn't won every rep. There was a pretty big pass rush win by Von Miller late in that game that kept the Chiefs from sustaining what could have been a game-tying or game-winning drive, but definitely some potential here. And I do think that over the long run, if they can have Wanya Morris start at left tackle and play average to above average left tackle for 3 years on a 4th-rounder salary, that's a big, big break. A 3rd-rounder salary, I should say. That's a big break. That's a big positive for the Chiefs, no doubt.
So that's Morris, and we're all on the same page. How big of a deal that is for the Kansas City Chiefs if he can go. But I want to discuss...
He's got to change his number, by the way.
You don't like 64?
Not as a left tackle. Like, yeah, if you're a third string guard, great. Nah, 64 is not a tackle number.
What's the tackle number? 70s?
69 and up.
Okay. All right. I didn't know you were number guy. Are you like, are you like Tom Brady?
Very
ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
That they're wearing.
His reasoning is dumb. My reasoning is very smart. It's just that it looks bad.
Oh, no.
Tom Brady's reasoning, I'm confused by a linebacker wearing a number in the 30s. Well, you're just not very smart. The part about it just doesn't look good, that's me. That's my very smart reason.
Oh.
I am smarter than Tom Brady.
I'm
you can
still
tell.
furious that Derek Nottie isn't wearing the number 6.
No, see, bad, awful,
so
awful.
mad,
terrible,
just irate.
I love the largest guy in the field should always wear a single digit number.
Like Vince Wilfork should have wore the number 4.
No, bad.
Who was it?
Bad.
Who was it in college? Was it like Sean Cody or Nick Fairley? It was one of those like mountainous defensive tackles from the SEC.
We're like 9.
Oh, Lewis Nix, the late Lewis Nix from Notre Dame. He was number 6, I think.
Yeah.
I love when giant dudes wear single digits.
He wore 1.
Oh, he was 1.
Yeah, he wore 1.
There was another guy for Notre Dame who wore 6, who was a big boy.
No, dislike. Bad. You should be wearing a number in the 90s. If you must, you wear a number in the 70s.
Haloti Nada wearing 5.
I want to bring back quarterbacks wearing numbers in the 20s, too.
Gilbert Brown wearing the number 8.
Remember when Michigan let Devin Gardner wear number 98 for a year when he played quarterback?
Bad.
Real ball.
So bad.
Dan, you and I are on board there, buddy.
So bad.
Yeah. Who was it? It was also
Have some self-respect.
Shoelace.
Denard Robinson.
Oh, yeah.
He wore 15, I think.
16.
Yeah.
But no, Devin Gardner, his senior season at Michigan, it was back when they were honoring like past legends by giving them old retired numbers. And they let him wear Tom Harmon's number, who was the quarterback at Michigan, like halfback in the 1940s. Yeah. So he's out there taking snaps wearing number 98 for a season.
Yeah.
Awful.
Tony Saragusa.
The only good idea Brady Hoke had in 4 years.
Tony Saragusa wearing the number 1. Amazing.
Dislike.
Okay. Let's move on to Chris Jones, who would look amazing if he wore 5. Let me ask you this. Chris Jones no longer leads the team in sacks. That's George Karlaftis. He's got 9. He's going to hit 10 sacks. You could have made a decent amount of money if you thought George Karlaftis was going to get to 10 sacks this year. But George Karlaftis with 9 sacks, Chris Jones 7.5. Right now, do you think Chris Jones or L'Jarius Sneed makes more sense to be on the Chiefs next year? Because as the year goes on, Chris Jones hasn't been as dominant as we would probably think. And I'm wondering if Chris Jones is going to get that $30 million going into next year. He's a year older and not quite as dominant this year.
Is he playing his way out of tag and trade scenarios?
And that's why I asked you right now. 30-year-old Chris Jones helps the Chiefs more, or L'Jarius Sneed helps them more next year? He locked up Stephon Diggs. Now I do know L'Jarius Sneed has gotten grabby, but he's locked up a bunch of number 1s this year, man.
Steve Spagnuolo has said, and Chiefs defensive backs have said, like, they want to play physical, and if they get popped for a 5-yard penalty here and there, they'll live with it.
Well, they lived with ending a drive or keeping a drive going on Sunday.
Yeah.
My answer, honestly, without even thinking twice, is Chris Jones.
It is? Okay.
There are more L'Jarius Sneeds in the NFL than there are Chris Jones. That's simply what it comes down to. There are more guys who have L'Jarius Sneed's skill set, and he's been great this year. There are more guys that have that skill set than what Chris Jones has.
So this is wild.
I just don't think Chris Jones right now, though, at 30 and you got to do it at their going rate. Like Chris Jones at $30 million versus L'Jarius Sneed at, I don't know what his going rate is going to be. Like we're talking current market value right now.
So Chris Jones has 2 sacks in the last 7 games.
Yeah, like he has,
and didn't record. Never mind a sack. He hasn't recorded a tackle since the Raiders game. Now, he had 3 quarterback hits against Buffalo. He had 2 quarterback hits against Green Bay. It's not like, we've ripped guys for being out there getting their cardio in. Like, I'm not saying that about Chris Jones, but the production. This is not $30 million a year production.
No,
it
not. Isn't.
And how much of that is missing training camp, maybe catching up to him? I don't know. But this is not $30 million a year production. So if he hits the market expecting that, he may be disappointed.
See, I firmly disagree. Like, how many defensive interior linemen have more sacks than Chris Jones? How many other than Chris Jones have double digits in sacks?
Matabike from Baltimore.
Justin Matabike.
Donald?
Nope.
Who? He's going to be a free agent at the end of this year. Or
Matabike, he's going to be a free agent.
Or they could tag him.
He could get a bigger deal than Chris Jones.
Aaron Donald only has 7. There's one other interior defensive lineman in the NFL who has as many sacks or more than Chris Jones this year. Quarterback hits for interior linemen. Chris Jones tied for the second most. Aaron Donald does top that list. And then there's a 5-way tie with 12 for second place.
Well, how many of those guys are making $30 million a year?
Aaron Donald.
Yeah, just Donald. And he's not.
And what's Christian Wilkins make? He's going to be a free agent this year. He's going to get that same kind of contract, or it should be a little bit less, but he's going to be in the neighborhood. Dexter Lawrence just got a new contract. He's in that group. Fletcher Cox isn't making quite that much, but he's been a vet. He's been a really good player for a long time. He's in that group as well. In terms of number of hurries, Chris Jones is down the list a little bit. But in terms of Pro Football Focus has a stat called win percentage. It's very similar to ESPN's pass rush win rate. Chris Jones, top 10 in the NFL. They have a proprietary number. How often do you have either a sack, a hit, or a hurry on pass rush reps? Top 10 in the NFL. I really do think Chris Jones is worth that still at this point. I think it has been a less flashy season, but I think also part of that is the fact that he is not the only one making plays on this defense anymore.
Yeah. That's a good point. That there's a little bit more pass rush juice around him this year with Karlaftis leveling up a bit and Menahu and Dana having a great year. That's a fair point.
I would say this one way or the other, though. I do think you're at a point you have to keep one of them. Because I think keeping continuity on this defense will be a really important factor going forward.
And plus, what kind of message does it send to that locker room where, okay, this is the best defense you've had in the Mahomes era. We're going to let the 2 best players walk?
Yeah.
Or 2 of the 3 best players?
I'm right there with you.
I don't think you can do that.
100% agree. Let's get to a timeout. We've got What Is Wrong With You coming up next. And we've got Jayhawk Weekly with Michael Swain coming up later this hour right here on 580 Sports Talk. What is wrong with you? Time here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan and Dan with you as we try to find a new daily and maybe weekly winner. What is wrong with you, as always, is brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. They cut the metal you need to your specifications, which saves you time, money, and material. Never settle when it comes to your metal with Top City Metal Supply, located on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. Our winner for the week, it's the Panda Express stabbing. A guy was so mad in the suburbs of St. Louis that his Panda Express order was not made right or tasted bad or
just didn't meet his standards.
He stabbed someone over it after getting kicked out of the restaurant.
Yeah, he punched somebody in the head. Then when he was escorted out, he stabbed another employee in the back.
Can't do that.
Seems like an overreaction.
You'd think. You're up first today.
All right. With apologies to Dr. Zeus, every Floridian in Middleburg liked Christmas a lot. But Douglas Moore, who lived on a county road in Middleburg, did not. Douglas Moore was arrested after he allegedly fired off several shots during a neighborhood Christmas parade because he became agitated at what parade goers were doing. Moore was arrested and charged with 6 counts of aggravated assault with a firearm, reckless discharge of a firearm, and using a firearm while under the influence of alcohol after the incident that unfolded in Middleburg on Saturday at the Middleburg Christmas Parade.
Oh.
As it got underway Saturday evening, deputies and SWAT team members responded to a location along the parade route after several gunshots were heard. According to deputies, Moore became agitated by the activities generated by parade attendees. That's when he discharged a pistol several times while walking onto the property where a group of people were. The arrest affidavit noted that no victims or witnesses ever entered Moore's property. Deputies said when they approached the back of the property, they saw several people yelling at the suspect, identified as Moore, at the property line. They were demanding to know, as anyone would, why he was shooting at them. When Moore allegedly refused to comply with deputies' orders to get on the ground, he was taken to the ground and put into custody. Deputies also observed Moore's slurred speech and bloodshot, watery eyes. No injuries were reported, and no one was struck by the gunfire. He was transported to the Clay County Jail. You shoot up a Christmas parade?
Yeah, dude, you're I don't want to say a word that'll get me in trouble. You're messed up in the head, man.
Boy, hopefully his heart will grow 3 sizes inside that jail.
Just absolutely awful.
Real live Grinch.
Bad person. Bad guy. There's no need for
Nobody went on your property, dude. And again, I mean, I know it's Florida where, like, literally if somebody goes on your property, you can just cap them and it's fine. But nobody was on your property.
No. It's a parade, man. Go take a drive. Go somewhere else for the day. Oh.
Go to your basement. Turn on, watch Die Hard.
Put on headphones and go take a nap. God, what a loser. What an all-time loser. All right, we're going to Florida for mine. Why would you steal from a cash register when instead you could just steal the cash register? That's the question being asked in Flagler County, Florida, where deputies are seeking to identify a man accused of stealing a cash register from a Walmart. Now, unfortunately, I regret to inform you, we have almost no details. The police would not even announce where the Walmart is that the cash register was taken from. However, according to the Flagler County Sheriff's Office, the man allegedly stole the register at 8:25 p.m. There are still plenty of people at Walmart at that time.
Yeah.
Milling about and shopping and whatnot. Authorities did not indicate again which Walmart it was stolen from. You're supposed to call the sheriff's office if you have seen this man. He's caught in 4K. It is very obvious if you know who this guy is that you will be able to identify him. It's pretty clear security footage. And he just took the register. Why worry about
smarter,
the
not
middleman?
harder?
Yeah, for real. Why worry about the middleman? I'm not going to make the person at the cash register, open the register, give me all the money in it. That's a process. Just pulling the plug out and taking the thing, that is much slicker. I wish we had details. Like,
right.
Why?
Yeah, why would be nice.
Why did he try to knock over this Walmart in particular? I would love to know those details. Unfortunately, all we have is, please tell us where this man went. We stole the cash register. I found that to be very funny.
It is. This is very humorous.
All right, who's got the win today?
I think it's got to be the guy who threatened the Christmas parade.
Yeah, that one wins today. Here's the thing, though. That can't win for the week. I refuse to allow someone who is that bad of a person to win the week. It is a Christmas parade, man.
Now, he may, as Vance says in the YouTube comments, belong on the permanent naughty list, but we are not going to keep him on the what is wrong with you list. We're going to stick with the stabbing at the Panda Express.
That also terrible, but funnier terrible.
Yes.
Well, because no one died, obviously. Shooting up a Christmas parade, just completely demented. That is awful. So our Panda Express stabbing, totally normal story by comparison. That is our winner yet again today in What Is Wrong With You, which, as always, is brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. Metal cut to order when you need it. That's Top City Metal Supply, which you can find on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field, right here in the capital city. Coming up on the other side of this timeout, it's time for Jayhawk Weekly. We'll be joined by Michael Swain of Fog.net to talk all things Kansas Jayhawks. That's coming up in just a moment here on 580 Sports Talk. Joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline is Michael Swain, who covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. That's where you can find all of his work covering KU. Go be a VIP if you aren't already. It is absolutely worth the low cost. All sorts of great inside information into what is going on with the Kansas Jayhawks. You can find Michael as well on Twitter at mswain247 is his handle. Michael, what's going on, man?
Not too much. We're finally seeing some transfer portal stuff pick up, which is always exciting, and it's kind of a little weird now thinking that we've got a couple more days before another KU basketball game. It's a weird time of year now with finals going on and all that. So it's been a little different, but still pretty busy.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding about that. And we'll get to the basketball here in just a little bit. We'll hit on the football transfer portal too momentarily. But I've got to ask, because it started yesterday, how are we feeling about deconstruction, demolition beginning at the booth?
Yeah, it's pretty exciting, isn't it? And based on what Travis Goff put out on social media yesterday, I think KU's going to go through with having a live tracker so fans can kind of keep an eye on it. And I'm sure there are going to be some fans that are going to have that up on a second monitor all the time between now and August 2025. So pretty exciting. I think, it's weird just to see, man, some of the photos and all of it. So it'll be really cool to see it kind of transform over the next, 2 years or so.
I was just saying earlier, it's kind of bittersweet because I know, the stadium needs upgrades. Obviously, everybody knows that. But I know you feel, well, you experience the same thing anyway. Maybe you don't feel the same way. I spent a lot of time in that stadium, much of it not very pleasant, but it will be weird for one of the oldest stadiums in the country to look so new, but definitely going to be exciting when it finally gets put up. All right, let's get to the transfer portal stuff. Some news for KU this week. It starts with someone from right here in Topeka, Deshaun Hanika, former Hayden Wildcats product, several years at Iowa State. Now for his final year of eligibility, transferring back near home. He's going to play at KU this year. What is Kansas getting in the former Hayden Wildcat, Deshaun Hanika?
Yeah, I think it's someone that can bring experience and proven production to a tight ends room that is losing a guy that offered you a lot of experience in production in Mason Fairchild. I think very highly of Trevor Cardell, and I think everybody knows what Jared Casey brings to this offense. But you're asking a lot for all of a sudden KU to go from having those three, right, Fairchild, Cardell, Casey being your main three, to all of a sudden having, Cardell and Casey. And then are you asking Tavita Noah to be the guy that was getting Cardell snaps? Or you're asking all of a sudden a redshirt freshman, Jaden Ham, to do that? Like, that's a lot to ask. So this is a big addition because it allows more time for someone like Ham or even Carson Brune, who will enroll in the summer. It allows them guys some time to develop. And Hanika is someone that brings a lot of athleticism too. And I think it's a different profile than Mason Fairchild, because I think we look at Fairchild being a good all-around player, maybe not someone that's going to blow you away with athletic ability, but a guy that still brings some physicality to that tight end spot. Well, Hanika is a guy that, talking to other people that are pretty close to knowing what the tape looks like and the numbers, he's a guy that's going to come to KU and be one of the most athletic tight ends KU has on the roster, and if not one of the most athletic guys KU's had at tight end in a good long while. So I think it's a really big pickup. I mean, there's a reason why he's ranked, I think, in the top 80 in all the, however many hundreds of transfer portal players there are, right? He's a really good player. And it's a really, really good get for KU at a position that I think maybe some may not have thought would have been a big position of need, but I think considering what KU loses, I think it's a really good addition.
On the way out, because KU is right up against the scholarship limit, which is a good thing. That's a good problem to have relative to where KU was not all that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
Also found out this week, Tanaka Scott, the veteran wide receiver, he is entering the portal. Personally, Michael, I can't say I'm super surprised because I assume a lot of the top production from this season is going to come back. Lawrence Arnold, Luke Grimm, that entire group, along with some of the young guys who came in, Keaton Kubeka, among others in this past recruiting class. Were you at all surprised that Tanaka Scott ended up deciding to finish off his eligibility elsewhere?
Not particularly. It's a tough one, right? Because on the one hand, he's someone that has generated some positive buzz in preseason camp over the last 2 years, but that doesn't always translate to on-field production and on-field success. And I think people are going to remember the 3 drops right against Texas Tech as being kind of the lasting, I don't know if memory is the right word, but definitely it leaves a strong final impression on what people think of Tanaka Scott, where he's a guy that had a lot of talent. And I think he's going to land somewhere, and I think he's going to produce wherever he goes next, because he'll have a bigger role. Everybody can see the talent that he has, right? His size, his athleticism. If he can correct the dropping issues that he has had, I think he's a guy that can go on to maybe a Power 5 program like an Indiana, maybe. Just I'm throwing a name out there, like someone that has a new staff, needs some players to come in that have been at other Power 5 programs and can produce, or maybe he goes to the Group of 5 level and just tears it up. But I think he's someone that, considering what KU had coming back, it would have been a very hard path to consistent playing time next year. And then all of a sudden you're looking at it being his final year, and that's a tough thing to sit through, right? Knowing that you only got 1 year then to produce in your college career. So not terribly surprising. And I'm not sure for 2024 if it's a huge loss. But look, man, like KU's going to lose a lot of wide receivers after next year. So that's going to be something we'll probably cover this time next year.
Michael Swain is our guest. Covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net, which is part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Michael joins us every Tuesday at this time for Jayhawk Weekly on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. One last football question for you, Michael, before we get to the hardwood. Do you expect any key KU players to opt out of the bowl game? Because this is when we start to hear more about guys, Drake May from North Carolina, the quarterback, Ben Sinnott, K-State tight end. He announced it earlier today that he's going to go on and get ready for the draft. Do you expect any other key players for this KU team to back out of the bowl game?
Well, look, I was advising Dominic Pooney. There's no chance he plays in the bowl game. Like, let's be real here. He should not play in the bowl game. I don't know if he'll opt out. Lonnie Phelps, we saw last year, right? He knew he was going to the NFL and he didn't opt out. But I think Pooney has so much to gain from the bowl scene in terms of the Senior Bowl, not the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, that you cannot risk anything happening. Because he's a guy, if you paid attention to this, and not you, Brendan, but just people in general, like, he is getting a lot of rave reviews as someone that can play all 5 spots on the offensive line. And if he goes to Mobile and tears it up, like, he will be drafted. And there's so much upside financially for his football career that he can't risk this. And so I think he's one that, to me, feels like an obvious one if he does opt out at the end. I don't know that for a fact, but if he does, it's a no duh. I think elsewhere, it's going to come down to, what Devin Neal decides to do, right? If he does decide to go pro, then I think it's smart if he opts out. That's kind of the broad theme for me is, right, if you're going to go pro and you're a guy that is not a lock to be drafted, which I don't know if Kansas has at the moment, I think that's smart to opt out. Now, those decisions I think are still ongoing, but I expect we'll probably get a better idea of what that looks like probably in the next week to 10 days. Because then at that point, right, you're planning out the actual game plan for this bowl game and trying to figure out for the coaches, like, who are they going to play and what's the game plan got to be so they can go out and get a big bowl win.
If Dominic Pooney does end up getting drafted or making the NFL period, that's got to go down as maybe the biggest individual development win that the Leipold administration has had, right? I mean, this is a guy who was a Division II player, and no disrespect on these airwaves for the Division II level or the MIAA, certainly, but he was playing at Central Missouri, comes to what at the time was a terrible KU team, is part of a much improved offensive line, one of the better ones in the conference, to then get drafted after all of that. I mean, that's got to be more than any other individual, I would think, like the biggest success story when it comes to this KU coaching staff's development process.
Totally. And I think the fact that, too, right, he's done it playing 2 different spots.
Yeah.
Last year they had Earl Bostic at left tackle, and they had to find a way to get Pooney on the field because that's how good he was. So he played left guard. And for him then this year, right, KU goes out, gets Logan Brown, they try other options, and all of a sudden they kind of just go back to probably the best overall offensive lineman they have on the roster and say, hey, Dom, can you play left tackle? And he says, sure. And he does a really, really good job. So I think you're right. And it's just a great story overall. Obviously, if you've met Dom, he's a great guy and someone that's really thoughtful and good to talk to. So it couldn't happen to a better person. And I think it'd be a really, really great story for not only Dom, but also for this KU staff to say, hey, we have developed, right, NFL offensive linemen that can get drafted, which is obviously a really big thing when you get on the recruiting trail.
All right, Michael, let's get to KU hoops here. Won the border war this weekend, took down Missouri, didn't cover, won by 9, was in control for the vast majority of the game, even though, hey, credit to Dennis Gates, man. Only the finest coaches and the finest programs can lead for 14 minutes on the road. I mean, that hang a banner. Mizzou Arena put up a full wall banner for an effort like that. But on a serious note, I will try not to get too fired up about that for a second day in a row. What was your big takeaway from the border war on Saturday?
That KU trail for 14 minutes. Are you kidding me? That's the big takeaway here. No, I love you brought that up. I think for me, it's like the way that Mizzou guarded KU because, look, the Big 12 has some of the best college basketball coaches, like second to none, and they watch other games. And I think people like Sampson, Scott Drew are watching that game and saying, oh, okay, this is one way where we can really try and slow down Hunter Dickinson. And I don't know if KU has the ability to consistently outscore teams when Hunter Dickinson is not a guy that's getting, kind of 15 plus points. right? KU does not have the 3-point shooting at this point in time to go and do that. So what Missouri did in guarding KJ and Elmarko, or not guarding for lack of a better term, is something that I think other teams are going to replicate because it worked in the first half. And there's a reason why, Dennis Gates really wanted to hit on that 14-minute mark, right? Because that was the thing that they did to slow down KU. In the second half, they kind of went away from it a little bit more. And I think Elmarko Jackson making that 3-pointer is what changed that guarding style for Missouri. So it's going to come down to KU this season. Honestly, I think it's pretty simple. Who makes 3-point shots and who is playing the minutes of those 3-point shooters? Because if all of a sudden Nick Timberlake can figure it out and he's a guy that can hold his own defensively in some regard and then knock down shots on the other end, well, all of a sudden this looks a lot easier. But if not, that means Elmarko is going to have to play a lot more, and he's not a proven 3-point shooter. And so there's going to be teams that are going to guard KU that way. So it'll be fascinating to see how Bill Self down the road, when other teams try and do that strategy, how he pivots, because he's obviously one of the best in college basketball at doing that.
KU, obviously, Michael, has a top 6, and we know the starting lineup is set in stone. And then Furphy, I think, even though he's still got some growing pains he needs to work through, and, only playing 8 minutes against Missouri, I think, was a major detriment to KU in that game. That's clearly your top 6 right now if you're Kansas. And the issues after that have been well documented by you. We've talked about it on the show. I have complained about it constantly. Of that bench group, so you're looking at Nick Timberlake, you're looking at Parker Brown, you are looking at Jamari McDowell, and understanding that those guys all play different positions and are asked to do different things. Who do you think is the most likely one who can grow into an impact role sooner rather than later to take a little bit of pressure off that top 6?
Well, I'd like to say it's Nick Timberlake because his issues are mental. This is a player not playing freely, a player not grasping, I think, at times what the coaches want him to do. And I think himself had an interesting quote about it after his very short cameo against UConn, where he said Timberlake got on the floor, had 3 what he calls faux pas, which was a great vocabulary word, in a row, and then all of a sudden he can't play because he makes 3 mental mistakes. And that, for me, is what makes me think that if there's a guy that's going to figure it out, it might be Timberlake. Because I look at McDowell, and I think for him it's both mental and physical, right? He is not physically ready to compete for 15 minutes a night in the Big 12. That's perfectly fine. He's a freshman, right? I think oftentimes nowadays with the portal and everything, you kind of forget that, people like Thomas Robinson, right, don't play a lot of freshmen, play a little bit more sophomores, and are ready to take the lead, And so I think someone like McDowell fits that bill perfectly. And then Parker Brown is Parker Brown, right? I think physically there are going to be days when it matches up well for him, when there's maybe a center that's a little more on the athletic and lean side rather than maybe a big center like Klingon for UConn, where that's a really tough matchup for Parker on the inside. So for me, it just continues to go back to Nick Timberlake. He's got to figure it out, because if he doesn't, this team is not going to win the national championship, because they need 3-point shooting and better guard play. And we've seen it time and time again, right? The teams that have the best big man don't always win in March. Why? Because it's easier to take out the big men because they don't have the ball in their hands all the time. Well, it's easier to get Hunter Dickinson the ball in his hands when it's a one-on-one matchup and Nick Timberlake is stretching the floor and Kevin McCullough's out there, maybe Furphy's out there too. So I just look at Timberlake and say he's the one that holds the keys to the ceiling for KU, because we know KU is going to win a lot of games with the top 4 they have, but it's going to come down to Timberlake figuring it out mentally for this team to really hit the peak that they can.
Michael Swain is our guest, Kansas Jayhawks beat writer for Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. You can find him on Twitter at mswain247 and, of course, Fog.net. And go, again, be a VIP. It is absolutely worth the cost of admission. The message boards are great. All the inside info that you cannot get anywhere else from Michael over there at 24/7 Sports and Fog.net. Looking ahead this weekend, Indiana, another big game. Now, Indiana, not quite having the start to the season that they were hoping for, that their fans were hoping for, and certainly stakeholders in that program were hoping for when they were able to get Mackenzie Mbako away from KU during the recruiting process. We followed that quite a bit here on this show, Michael. What do you make of this Indiana team that KU is going to face this weekend?
Yeah, it's one that I think has a lot of guys that should be playing the 4. Someone like Mbako, for example, having to play a little bit more on the perimeter, right? I'm really fascinated how this is going to play out, because I look at Indiana and the length that they have. I feel like that could be something that maybe gives KU an issue, but the mobility is maybe not something that is a huge strength for this Indiana team at this point in time. So for me, I think this is a great test case for someone like Johnny Furphy, because this is a team that's going to have the size and length and the bodies to keep running through, where KU doesn't necessarily have that. So I think for someone like Furphy, obviously we know what Kevin McCullough and KJ Adams bring, right? We know what they give KU every night, but this will be a really interesting game for me to watch Furphy and see how he handles it against a team that does have a lot more of those big wings, because I think at this point in time, we've seen Furphy try and guard kind of that 1 through 3. It doesn't always look the prettiest as when he's kind of guarding the guys that are closer to 4s and 3s. So I think this is the type of matchup where if Furphy does hold his own, that bodes well, because you figure out, okay, when Furphy's on the floor, that means that he's going to guard the opposing 4 if, KJ's on the bench. And so there are different things you can tweak and figure out based on what maybe you can learn from a game like this. So I think Indiana has the tools to give KU some issues, but I'm not sure if this is a game that I have billed as one that KU's going to lose.
Who's got a better chance of being a first-team All-American this year, Hunter Dickinson or Kevin McCullough?
Oh, wow, that's a really good question. I might say Kevin McCullough, because it kind of goes back to the matchup issues that KU can run into here, where teams can just decide, Hunter Dickinson, you are not going to get 20 and 10 tonight. Whereas Kevin McCullough can find different ways, a la Jalen Wilson last year, where, hey, maybe his three-point shooting isn't going well, but he's going to relentlessly attack the rim. He's going to convert a couple times, get to the free throw 8 or 9 times, and come away with 8 points, So I feel like McCullough can grind his way to success, where I think Dickinson might just be very dependent on the lineups he's with and KU's ability to knock down shots and stretch the floor so he has space to operate and dominate.
I know Bill Self, I think it was after the UConn game, he was asked about McCullough and the step forward he's taken this year, and he kind of blew off the notion of him improving on the defensive end because he's been such a good defensive player, but he compared his step offensively that he's taken so far to that of Jalen Wilson last season, and I think he mentioned Ochai Agbaji the year before too. Do you see that comparison with what Jay Will was able to do last year with what McCullough has done so far this year?
Oh, yeah, 100%. And, you plug the VIP there, Brendan. I'll tell you, this one we've been hitting on since August, that this was what Kevin was going to do. He's someone that came back focused, knew the areas that he needed to improve on, because Self's right. Like, in terms of the defense, that's not what's holding him back to making the NBA. It's his offensive game and becoming more well-rounded. And I think you've seen that. I think the shot looks a little bit smoother this year. And I think you see that confidence in that I've got this mentality that I think Jalen Wilson had in abundance last year. I think the next step is maybe Kevin having the feel within the game to say, okay, we're getting sped up here. Let's slow it down. Hold on, guys. I got this. Because how many times last year did KU start getting sped up and all of a sudden Jalen Wilson starts pounding the ball, takes a second, drives to the rim, draws a foul. All of a sudden, you're sitting there at the free throw line and the momentum stops. So I think you do see these similarities. And I think it's one of these deals where, Kevin McCullough right now is being tabbed as a guy that could be a first round pick. I've heard from people that that's legit. Like, he is playing his way into being considered that in what is a pretty bad draft. So his decision to come back is paying dividends right now.
For the best insight on all things KU, go check out Michael Swain's work at fog.net and 24/7 Sports. Go be a VIP. Follow him on Twitter as well at mswain247. Michael, we appreciate the time, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Sounds great. Talk to you soon.
That's Michael Swain from fog.net. final hour-ish of 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday afternoon. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. We've got Lewis Toyota Tuesday Night Hoops coming your way this evening from the Dungeon at Topeka High. Some Centennial League action, in fact. It's Manhattan, the Indians on the road in the capital city tonight, taking on the Topeka High Trojans. Dan Lucero and the coach, Larry Latimer, will be on the call of doubleheader action today from, again, Topeka High and the Dungeon. Coverage of that game will begin as soon as we are done here on 580 Sports Talk. Not sure exactly when that will be. Original scheduled time for pregame was 5:45 tonight, but things for the JV are moving fairly quickly there at Topeka High, so we might be off a little bit earlier. But as soon as we are done and as soon as they are ready, we will kick you over to Dan and Lat over at the Dungeon for, again, Lewis Toyota Tuesday Night Hoops. Here in this final hour, half hour, 3/4 of an hour, whatever we've got together on the rest of this Tuesday afternoon, we'll get you our 580 Sports Talk headlines, a quick final word on some of the action today. Plus, we'll take your texts, 785-272-9429. That is the text line number. And, of course, the YouTube stream as well. Comment section wide open. We are live video streaming the show as long as we are on the air today. 580 Sports Talk. Simple enough. Same name as the show is the name of our YouTube channel. So head to YouTube, search 580 Sports Talk, subscribe to the channel, and you can check out the live stream, all of our other videos, Chiefs postgame video from Sunday night, all the other stuff we're doing, high school, Washburn, KU, K-State, all that on our 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel. We've got a lot of headlines to get to, so let's dive right in. We will start with the Kansas City Royals turning on the hot stove and making a couple of moves today. It begins with starting pitcher Seth Lugo, most recently of the San Diego Padres. He has agreed to, and I didn't know this until just a little bit ago, the fourth richest free agent contract in Royals history. 3 years, $45 million total. Now, the third year is a player option year. So essentially, this is like an NBA deal at this point. 2 years with a player option. That's what it is for Lugo. But total value of the deal, $45 million over 3 maximum years. Lugo last season, after spending the first 7 years of his career with the New York Mets, spent 1 year with the Padres. And the first time he had been a full-time starter since all the way back in 2017. He was pretty darn good. 146 and a third innings, made 26 starts. That's over 5 an outing, which, I mean, pretty typical for most mid-rotation starters at this point in time. 3.57 ERA, peripherals just slightly higher. It was a good year, an above-average year for Seth Lugo. And that right now is your number 2 or number 3 starter going into next season if you're the Kansas City Royals. Those are the kinds of pieces this team needs to continue to add. Pieces who are actually elevating the floor of your roster, who are on a day in, day out basis going to make you a better baseball team. I brought up to Dan yesterday when we were talking Royals, would you be comfortable with 2 decent to good starters and 1 major league ready, maybe unspectacular, but certainly playable everyday bat? Would that be a good enough offseason for you? And I think it is fair to say you would like more. I would like more too. I would love for the Royals to go out, get a third starting pitcher. Make Jordan Lyles a long reliever. Make him a piggyback guy and nothing else. You're paying him. You're stuck with him. Don't sunk cost fallacy. You can still go out and replace him. I'd love to get 2 or 3 bats out there to solidify that batting order. I don't think any of that is going to happen, but if you can at least add a few pieces that are going to raise the baseline level for your team over the balance of the year, that is what I want to see and what I think the Royals need to continue building on. Now, the other move the Royals are reportedly making, and this is according to Annie Rogers of MLB.com, her writing says the Royals aren't done. They're also close to finalizing a deal with right-handed reliever Chris Stratton. It would be a 1-year deal with a player option for 2025. That is truly the NBA-style deal, the 1 year with 1 option year built in there as well. I mean, Chris Stratton's fine. He's a long reliever. He can be a middle relief guy. Maybe you do the piggyback thing and he gets a couple of innings to start a game. Whatever it ends up looking like, that's fine. I mean, it's a it's a stable bullpen arm. And that's one thing the Royals really haven't had. Even this past year, the first 2 months or so of the season when the Royals did look like they had a very strong bullpen, one thing they didn't have was a whole lot of stability. And when it went, boy, did it go quickly. And the wheels fell off of that thing in a hurry. So getting a guy who has, again, a baseline reputation, a guy who is going to be solid for you long-term, and by long-term, I mean over the course of 162 games, you can take that. You will happily live with that. This past year for Texas, winning a World Series, he was traded there from St. Louis. Stratton made 22 appearances, 3.41 ERA. Now, he got some help as well. His peripherals, not quite as good. In fact, a full point, 4.46, higher than his ERA. But overall, on balance for the year, bouncing between St. Louis and Texas, 64 appearances, ERA under 4. In fact, his fielding independent numbers, when you factor in his time with St. Louis, look even better. So that's a good piece. That's just a nice, solid pitch every other day, every third day Major League Baseball player. The Royals need more pieces like that. I'm glad they're adding a piece like that. We had a question from Mark in the YouTube comments who said, do you think the Royals will go get another pitcher first, or will they go get another hitter first as they continue to build through the offseason? If I had to guess, I would assume it's pitcher at this point, just based on the reporting we've heard over the last couple of days that they're interested in Marcus Stroman. Maybe it's Lucas Giolito. Maybe it's Michael Wacha. Maybe it's Jack Flaherty. Any of these guys. The fact that the Royals have been tied in with them, that leads me to believe that they are going to try to go add more stability to the pitching rotation first, and then maybe you wait into the second wave of free agency, or you wait until you get closer to training camp, to spring training, before you end up adding a bat to this lineup. I do think this lineup needs a bat. I am darn near confident in that. More than darn near. I am very confident in that this team needs another bat. They need someone who can hit in the middle or bottom middle of the order and be a consistent producer every single day. They've got to get that at some point, but I think they're going to go with pitching first, and that's mostly just because we've heard the reporting to that point. And I mean, look, you're not going to have all those guys who I just mentioned who came up in the reporting for Mark Feinsand of MLB.com yesterday. Wacha and Giolito and Flaherty and Stroman at the top of the list. Those guys aren't going to be around forever. In all likelihood, that quartet is not going to be available all the way into middle to late February. So you've got to strike while the iron is hot. I hope the Royals end up going after one of those guys here in the nearer term future. Continuing on with today's 580 Sports Talk headlines on a busy day of news around the area. Let's get to the big K-State story of the day. We touched on it briefly in the 2 o'clock hour today. Nae'Qwan Tomlin has a new home just 3 days after graduating from K-State, entering the transfer portal as a grad transfer with immediate eligibility. He is headed to Memphis, where he will play with Penny Hardaway. It's a good fit in terms of playing time. You had to imagine Nae'Qwan Tomlin, after not playing for the first semester of this season with 1 year of eligibility left, I believe. Maybe it's still 2 years, even as a graduate. But you want to go play. You want to go somewhere where you are going to be empowered by your coach, and we know Penny Hardaway can do that and does that for his Memphis players, where you're going to have a role carved out right away, where you are going to get the ball in your hands plenty of times. That's what Memphis has. I think Dan mentioned earlier, there's only one player that Memphis has that's over 6'9". They could use some size. They could use some depth on the wing, and Tomlin's going to add that right away. He should start for that Memphis team. I joked about it earlier. I don't think Penny Hardaway is a very good coach. He was a heck of a player. He's a great recruiter. Players love him. They want to be around him. They want to be a part of his program, and that is extremely valuable in college sports. I just don't think he's actually good at coaching, and I think more often than not, in big moments during his career as the head coach of the Memphis Tigers, we have seen them turtle. We have seen them look unprepared. We have not seen them win those big moments enough. But I don't say that in any way to denigrate Nae'Qwan Tomlin. I think it's a really good fit for him, and I hope he finds success there. That's just my own personal feelings about Penny Hardaway as a head coach, nothing more than that. But it's a good fit for Nae'Qwan Tomlin, and if you are of the belief that there shouldn't be tampering in college sports, I would imagine you feel a little gross about this, because when you're determining where am I going to go play this year in college basketball and maybe build my future and get ready for a professional career and all of that, you normally would think it would take more than 3 days to determine that, which would lead you to then also believe there was probably contact between Memphis and Nae'Qwan Tomlin well before he was in the transfer portal. I would not be surprised by that. I don't also get upset about it. Every team is doing it. Everyone is tampering to some degree. I truly do believe that. And if you want to throw the, you guys are all about cheating, well, go for it. But I'm just telling you, I believe everybody is doing some level of tampering because you have to at this point. I mean, it's just the unfortunate, gross nature of the game. I've said it many times. Many people have said it many times. College coaching, college basketball, recruiting, transfer portal work, it is a nasty business. It is a dirty business. And you've got to bend the rules, if not outright break them, if you want to stay ahead. Memphis probably did there. But if you're not enforcing a rule, then it's nothing more than a guideline. So if you're not going to enforce that you can't tamper or anything like that, it's not really a rule in the first place. That's just a guideline. That's how I view it anyway. None of that is to put down Nae'Qwan Tomlin for how this situation unfolded. It's a crappy situation for him. It's a crappy situation for K-State. He's going to go somewhere and play, and now he's out of the picture. And now K-State can hopefully move on at least until the end of the regular season and the end of the postseason, and then we'll see what happens with the rest of the fallout from this very ugly situation in Manhattan we covered at length this past week. Some other headlines from the college football world today, as we stick with college sports here on our 580 Sports Talk headlines. A couple of big quarterback names that are transferring. Riley Leonard makes it official. He is headed to Notre Dame. That is a surprise to exactly no people anywhere on earth. As soon as it was known he was hitting the portal, it was assumed that he was going to end up at Notre Dame. So the former Duke quarterback has a new home in South Bend, Indiana. Tyler Van Dyke, former quarterback for the Miami Hurricanes, he is headed to Wisconsin as a transfer. Wisconsin had a number of quarterbacks this past year in the transfer portal. Tanner Mordecai among them, who had a bit of a letdown season. And I know they have a couple of young guys they're really excited about in Madison too. I don't think Van Dyke is very good, to be honest with you. I think he was hyped up because people who follow Miami and want Miami to still be a big brand in college football were kind of wish casting upon him that, yes, this is the guy that'll bring back Miami's prominence. This is the big armed QB that's going to take this program to the next level. He never was that. I think it's partially due to the fact that his head coach, Mario Cristobal, has a horrible track record with quarterbacks. And if you don't believe me on that, go look at what Justin Herbert was doing at Oregon and what he's doing now in the NFL. And even if you think he is an average quarterback because he's never won anything in the NFL, and I am certainly here to hear that argument, he's a hell of a lot better quarterback as an NFL player than he was as a college player when he was at Oregon. There is absolutely no denying that, in my opinion. So we'll see with Wisconsin. I don't love that. I assume he'll be battling for the job. You're probably not in a great spot if he's going to win the job outright. One other piece of information I think is important to get you from college football today from the Big 12. Running back Taj Brooks announced he is returning for another year to Texas Tech. That is an interesting decision to make. Must have gotten the feedback he didn't want to hear from the NFL, so he's going to return to college instead. I still believe Devin Neal should have been first team all Big 12 instead of Taj Brooks, but that's neither here nor there. That is a good keep for, I just blanked on his name, Joey McGuire. I was about to call him Matt Wells. Matt Wells has not been at Texas Tech in quite a while now. But for Joey McGuire, big to keep their number one offensive weapon in Taj Brooks. Let's get to the NFL as we round out today's 580 Sports Talk headlines from the National Football League. Speaking of Justin Herbert, it was announced today he is out for the season. Broke his index finger on his throwing hand in their loss to the Denver Broncos on Sunday. So Justin Herbert, according to Brandon Staley, they're doing what is best for him. And apparently what's best for him, his recovery, his long-term health on his throwing hand, is to shut him down for the rest of the season. Chargers aren't going to make the playoffs. They've got 4 games left on the year. It'll be Easton Stick, the former North Dakota State Bison national championship winner, 2-time national championship winner, I believe. He replaced Carson Wentz at North Dakota State. He is going to take the reins of the Chargers quarterback job going forward. The Chargers are also signing Max Duggan, the former TCU Davey O'Brien Award winner. They are signing him to their 53-man roster. He will be the backup quarterback for Stick for the rest of the season. I imagine it is over for Brandon Staley because we're deep enough into the year, you can't really play the injury card that I lost my quarterback. Man, you guys stunk even with your quarterback. Can't imagine Brandon Staley is going to survive that one in Los Angeles. Another note, Malik Cunningham, good quarterback in college at Louisville. Undrafted rookie, has been on and off the practice squad for the New England Patriots throughout the year. He was signed off the Patriots practice squad today by the Baltimore Ravens. Now, the Ravens have their starting quarterback, Louisville great, in Lamar Jackson, and now another former Louisville great in Malik Cunningham on their roster. One member of the Patriots offensive line, though, said, go somewhere where you're going to be worth, little brother. Go be placed somewhere where people know you're worth. We'll see how at the end of the season things are going in New England. I am still of the belief that Bill Belichick is going to hang around. I don't think you're going to fire him, especially when you're going to end up probably getting Drake May in the NFL draft this year. But boy, things are sour in Foxborough right now. Not a great place to be if you are the New England Patriots. Also, two other quick notes. One of them extremely funny, personally. This is from AT&T Stadium, aka Jerry World, down in Arlington, Texas. Here's the headline from WFAA TV in Dallas. AT&T Stadium employee let in ticketless fans in exchange for cash at Cowboys games. Police say an officer at the stadium Sunday was told that a contracted ticketing employee at an entry gate let in a group of people who did not have tickets. 19-year-old Diego Soto is facing a charge of commercial bribery. Said, hey, we don't have tickets, but what if we just pay you and you let us in? And he said yes. He said yes. And honestly, I'm going to be completely honest with you, okay? 19 years old. You think the Dallas Cowboys or the temp agency you're working for that got you that job taking tickets or scanning barcodes at Jerry World, you think that's your future? You think that's your long-term picture? I'm going to guess probably not. Maybe it's a cool thing to say, hey, I'm working a Cowboys game. And then you find out you're standing on the outside of Jerry World all day and you don't actually get to go see the game and you're 19 years old and you could use cash more than anything in the world right now. I get it. I totally understand why Mr. Diego Soto decided to take cash instead of taking the ticket. He can offer, how much do they offer him? $100? $200? Tickets for standing room only were going for in the $100 to $200 range. Man, if you offer me $100 and I'm making minimum wage for the day, of course I'm at least going to think about it. By the way, according to WFAA, commercial bribery is a felony in the state of Texas. That seems absurd for what this is. I hope they don't send him to jail. Make him pay back the money and let him go. Come on. Give me a break. Give me a break. Also, this one note from the sports media world. If you are a fan of Al Michaels and we're hoping to hear him during the postseason this year, last year you did, even though he now works for Amazon. He got to call a game with Tony Dungy last year for NBC's playoff broadcasts. Not happening this year. According to Andrew Marchand of the New York Post, Al Michaels was somewhat surprised to find out that NBC was not planning to bring him back for the postseason this year, even though they've got the rights to multiple playoff games. That is kind of crazy. Instead, it will be the son of Ian Eagle, Noah Eagle, who gets to call the second game that is actually going to be on Peacock for NBC in the wild card round of the postseason. Doing that to a legend. Al Michaels doesn't have his fastball anymore. I mean, 79 years old. And a lot of people don't even get close to 79 when they start to lose their fastball. Man, he's probably the greatest of all time. I mean, think of how many incredible calls Al Michaels has had, even in recent memory. He's one of the greatest of all time. I can imagine he probably doesn't feel all that great about that. Maybe we'll hear about it on Thursday Night Football. Probably not going to have a very great, well, who is the Thursday night game this week? It's not as bad as last week. I know that for certain. I think actually, do we have a decent game coming up on Thursday night this week? And let's check here. I actually do not even recall who is playing in this game. I probably should. But I would imagine Al Michaels is going to have something to say. He, again, 79 years old. He is not above throwing some barbs at former employers, maybe sometimes current employers. Yeah, okay, it's Raiders hosting the Chargers. It's Aiden O'Connell versus Easton Stick. Oh, yeah, we'll hear something snarky from Al Michaels. There's no doubt about that. That'll do it for our 580 Sports Talk headlines. Let's take a quick break. We'll come on back. We'll wrap up this edition of 580 Sports Talk with the final word. Wrap up 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday afternoon. Thanks so much for spending your afternoon with us. Plenty that we've gotten to over the course of the day. If you've missed anything from the show, don't worry. You can just head on over to our website. That's 580wibw.com. Go to the podcasts tab, hover over that, then click on 580 Sports Talk. That's where you'll find the show broken down hour by hour. Would love for you to go check it out if you missed anything today or if you just want to relive it. And of course, you can do the same on our YouTube channel. 580 Sports Talk on YouTube is where you can find us. You can go rewind the live stream as it's going on right now. After it's done, it will be posted up there. And so much other video content can be found on our YouTube channel, which is called 580 Sports Talk. Final word for me today before we get to some high school hoops, and we will get you out to the dungeon at Topeka High coming up here in just a few moments. Dan Lucero and the coach, Larry Latimer, are standing by from the dungeon, getting ready for some Centennial League basketball tonight on Lewis Toyota Tuesday Night Hoops as Manhattan visits Topeka High. We'll get out there in just a moment. But first, my final word today is going to take us back to our topic from the top of the show. And the Kansas City Chiefs fighting for the number one seed still. They are still alive for it. And if you wanted to tell me that this team is still the best team in the AFC because everybody is flawed, and they are, I would listen to that argument. I certainly would. I mean, Baltimore's flawed. Like we talked about, Baltimore has not won a huge game. They've only won a handful, if that many, playoff games in Lamar Jackson era. I think just one in his era. They haven't won a game even close to a Super Bowl in magnitude since winning the Super Bowl 47, over a decade ago now. 11 years, in fact. We're going into Super Bowl 58 this year. So it's been over a decade since then for John Harbaugh and the Ravens. The Dolphins, Dan has said, what do they do when they get off script? What do they do when they get off schedule? What happens when the plan doesn't work for Mike McDaniel and Tua Tagovailoa and the rest of that team, both offensively and defensively? Well, the offense sputters. And the defense, I don't think, is good enough to really carry you all the way. We know Jacksonville has been banged up. Trevor Lawrence, probably not 100% right now. They've got their own problems. Roster-wise, I think they're just not quite there with the rest of these teams. The Chiefs are absolutely still in the mix. They absolutely are for the title of best team in the conference and for that number one seed. You are at a juncture right now where it is no more excuses. And frankly, if you're a Chiefs fan, you may have felt for the majority of this season like there are no more excuses for this team. Like, hey, we have a Super Bowl window. We are the reigning Super Bowl champions. Every single time out, we should be competing for a Super Bowl. There are no exceptions, Super Bowl or bust, all of those cliches. And again, I will hear that argument. I understand that. But I also think you have to temper and moderate and adjust your expectations as the year goes on. And I think we have seen this year, this is not a Chiefs team that is as dominant or really dominant at all relative to other Chiefs teams of the recent past. I think the eye test shows that. I think that is obviously noted by the advanced metrics, less advanced metrics, your simple counting stats, things like that. I think it is very obvious for a lot of reasons. This is not the exact same kind of Chiefs team. This is put up or shut up time. And the nice part about that is that the Chiefs are going to make the playoffs. They're going to be in. I still believe the Chiefs are going to end up winning the division. I'm with Dan. I'm with Matt Verderam, who we talked to yesterday from Sports Illustrated. I think the Chiefs are going to run the rack the rest of the way. I do not see a way in which the Chiefs, well, I won't say I don't see a way in which the Chiefs lose, because I can very easily see a way the Chiefs lose. December 31st, New Year's Eve, 3:25 p.m. Chiefs mess around with Jake Browning out there at quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals at Arrowhead. Think it's going to be a cakewalk. Get lazy. Make dumb mistakes that lead to penalties. Make dumb, just thoughtless mistakes that lead to turnovers. Jake Browning throws 3 screen passes for 150 yards again. Bengals come away with a 1-score win. And it leaves you thinking, how in the world did this happen? Well, I don't know. Go back and look at all the other times the Chiefs lost this year where you were left shaking your head saying, how in the world did this happen? That's been the story of the Kansas City Chiefs this year. That has been the issue this year. So now, with a schedule, a 4-game set to end the regular season, that includes a road trip to take on a miserable Patriots team that has found a quarterback savior in Bailey Zappi, who is still probably in the bottom, 6 quarterbacks in the NFL, maybe worse than that, but he's still better than Mac Jones. That's how low the bar is for New England right now. That's the team you're playing this weekend. A team that is so bad, the NFL flexed Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs out of a Monday Night Football game. That is how bad things have been for New England this year. You get a Raiders team on Christmas Day at noon that is just not very good. They've got an interim head coach in Antonio Pierce. They've got a quarterback right now who is better than this stage Jimmy Garoppolo in Aiden O'Connell, but he's still not good. They've got bad vibes on that team. Ever since the 2-game winning streak to start off the Antonio Pierce era, things have not felt good over the last couple of weeks for the Raiders. The Bengals have playmakers and probably a better coach than he gets credit for in Zach Taylor. But that being said, they've also got Jake Browning at quarterback, and I am of the belief that eventually he is going to come back down to earth, just like a lot of quarterbacks who have had to come in and give you relief minutes this year. The Minnesota Vikings today announced that Josh Dobbs, one of the best stories of the entire NFL season, Joshua Dobbs, he's losing the starting job. He's not even starting at quarterback for the Vikings anymore. They're giving it over to Nick Mullins. Nick Mullins. We've got the tape, folks. We know what Nick Mullins is. That is not anything that's going to make you go crazy, get excited. The Vikings are still probably going to make the playoffs. The NFC is such a cluster for those 6 and 7 seeds right now. And now they've got a 1-game edge on Green Bay for the 6 seed over the 7 seed after last night's debacle. But that's a different story. At some point, backup quarterbacks prove why, generally speaking, they are backup quarterbacks. And I do think that is going to come for Jake Browning at some point, even if he has been a fun story over the last couple of weeks. And then you round out the year with the Los Angeles Chargers. You will be on the road on January 7th, or possibly the 6th. They might move that to a Saturday. But either way, you're on the road in LA. You're going to have more Chiefs fans there than Chargers fans. It might be 9-1 at that point. There might be 9 of every fans in the building might be Chiefs fans at that point. Chargers won't be playing for anything. May have fired their coach at that point. Justin Herbert won't be playing. I bet a bunch of veterans are only going to play limited snaps, if any snaps, trying to hit some incentive deals. That might, maybe they don't even. Maybe that's just it for Joey Bosa. Maybe that's just it for Khalil Mack. Maybe that's just it for Keenan Allen for the year by that point in the season. Why, if I'm Keenan Allen, do I want to catch hospital balls from Easton Stick in the last game of the year in a lost season? That is what is ahead of the Kansas City Chiefs. If you cannot make it shake with that group on your schedule the rest of the way, well, I think we've got much bigger concerns right now for the Kansas City Chiefs than just, well, we might not get the number 1 seed. I'd say you might get bounced early in the playoffs if you can't win against a schedule like that. That does it for 580 Sports Talk today. We're back tomorrow from 2 until 6. For Dan Lucero, for Jake Laban, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. We'll take a quick break. And following 580 Sports Talk, we've got Lewis Toyota Tuesday Night Hoops from the Dungeon with Dan Lucero and the coach, Larry Latimer.